Hello everyone, I'm very glad that you listened to my story. Please give me a follow and like the video if you enjoyed it. Feel free to comment and provide feedback so I can improve the sound quality. Yes, we invite you to listen to part 4 of the series. Chapter 54, 054, Sore Point. Chapter 54, Chapter 054, Sore Point. If you claim that suffering loss is a blessing, and that principle makes sense, then why didn't you suffer the loss yourself? If you're unwilling to suffer losses, but want others to suffer them instead, this is the first time I've ever heard of such a thing. What's more, knowing how significant this work is to you and yet not cherishing it, creating all these complications, and then blaming the fault on others. Her righteous words resounded powerfully, leaving Li Fang utterly speechless. His face turned from red to white, and all he could do was glare threateningly at Zhuang Qingning. Miss Zhuang is right. Unable to stand Li Fang's behavior any longer, Lian Rong couldn't help but speak up. Li Fang, your intentions were unrighteous from the beginning. Blaming others for your own downfall is unreasonable. If there's anyone to blame, it is your own wrongdoings. When a wall falls, everybody pushes it over. You're nothing more than the grass growing on top of the wall. Li Fang looked at Lian Rong disdainfully. Isn't it always whatever your master says goes? When have you ever had an idea of your own? Suppose Zhang Yongchang says shit smells good, I bet you wouldn't dare say it stinks. Lian Rong was too enraged to respond. Zhuang Qingning's face darkened, her cold laughter growing louder. If you insist on making a scene here demanding answers, perhaps I should call out to everyone to come and hear how I've harmed you and how you've been wronged. There are plenty of people out and about in the streets this morning, surely they won't miss your grievances if I call for their attention. With those words, Zhuang Qingning cleared her throat. Li Fang's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He understood only too well the origin of the dispute. It was just that he was full of resentment and anger towards Zhuang Qingning, and he had accused her without thinking. If everything was truly scrutinized, everyone would undoubtedly point fingers at him. Now, after being driven out of Fushan Tower by Feng Yongkang, he still had chances to find other places to work. But if his misdeeds were broadcast to everyone, he wouldn't be able to hide, and no one would want to employ him anymore. By then, he would truly be out of options. This vixen always hit where it hurt. Li Fang dared not argue with Zhuang Qingning much longer. He could only glare at her, snorted coldly, and left after throwing out a "you wait and see," his bag slung over his shoulder. TCH, disgusting creature, still having the nerve to act tough at this time. Among us all, you're the one full of tricks. It serves you right. Lian Rong had never liked Li Fang, so seeing him now as helpless as a homeless mutt, he found himself feeling exceptionally joyous. However, seeing young Miss Zhuang's face, he regretted that his previous statement was a bit crude. He chuckled and said, "Miss Zhuang, don't take his words to heart. Li Fang has always been a villain. It serves him right to have been driven out. Don't worry, I won't take it to heart." Zhuang Qingning's expression softened. The harsher his words, the clearer it is that he is extremely frustrated, right? Shouldn't I be happier about his frustration then? How could I be unhappy because of his words? After contemplating Zhuang Qingning's words, Lian Rong gave her a thumbs up and said, "Miss Zhuang, you are absolutely right." It was getting late, and they both had work to attend to. After paying for the tofu, they both returned to their own businesses. Zhuang Qingning continued to manage the tofu stall. Having been selling tofu in the town for a while, her reputation had gradually improved, and there were more and more people buying tofu. Cai Jingzhen arrived later than usual today, wearing a gloomy expression. The business of Ri Pavilion had just picked up for a few days, but it returned to its previous state just as fast, when they heard that Fushan Tower had also started purchasing tofu from Zhuang Qingning. In fact, it was even less successful than before. As a result, Cai Jingzhen had been sighing since morning. Even while buying tofu, he occasionally let out deep sighs. Zhuang Qingning had been in town for a while and had come to understand the relationships between the restaurants. She didn't say much, but kept her usual friendly demeanor, bidding Cai Jingzhen farewell as he left with his tofu. "I think the Rui Pavilion may stop buying tofu from us in the future." Zhuang Qingsui's face was full of worry. Influenced by Cai Jingzhen or out of real concern, she let out a long sigh. "Oh. Why do you think so?" Zhuang Qingning tilted her head. In the past, the Rui Pavilion bought tofu from us because Fushan Tower didn't. They saw a profit in it. But if Fushan Tower also starts buying tofu from us, the Rui Pavilion loses its advantage over them. Why would they strain themselves for nothing? Qingsui suggested. Zhuang Qingning blinked, laughed, and gently tapped Qingsui's forehead. You. Sister, did I say something wrong? Qingsui's face was full of confusion. Of course you're wrong. Do you remember why Rui Pavilion started buying tofu from us in the first place? Zhuang Qingning asked with a smile. Because our tofu is delicious and Rui Pavilion thought they could snag business from Fushan Tower with it. Given that our tofu is delicious, then what would happen if Rui Pavilion stopped using our tofu? This, Qingsui thought for a long time. When she finally lifted her head up, her eyes shone. One get it, sister. Even if Rui Pavilion fails to compete with Fushan Tower, they have to use our tofu anyway. That's because our tofu is the best in taste. If they use tofu of a lower quality, their business would be even worse. The Rui Pavilion wouldn't dare to do that. That's right. Zhuang Qingning nodded. Although using our tofu may not necessarily improve their situation, not using it would definitely make things worse. Plus, considering the fair price of our tofu, they don't have any other choice. Yes, sister. You're right. Qingsui nodded with excitement. That's why, keep all your worries inside, okay? There is nothing to worry about with your sister around. Zhuang Qingning couldn't resist patting Qingsui's round head. Having been well-nourished lately, Qingsui's previously dry hair was now dark, and her face had filled out, making her look much rounder. Seeing how cute she looked, Zhuang Qingning had to fight back her urge to pinch her cheeks and instead gave her a tender smile. Watching their warm bond, maid Mrs. Lu couldn't help but grin from ear to ear. Comparing their relationship to the hostility between her sons at home, she sighed with a headache, and felt a wave of envy towards the bond between Zhuang Qingning and Zhuang Qingsui. Chapter 55, 055, Grand Opening. Chapter 55, Chapter 055, Grand Opening. The tofu was sold out early, and Zhuang Qingning and Zhuang Qingsui had bought a few items and were on their way home. By the time they reached their front door, Mrs. He was already waiting for them. Miss Ning, Miss Sui. Seeing the two sisters return, Mrs. He greeted them from afar and took 2 steps forward. You two are finally back. Auntie. Zhuang Qingning smiled. What brings you here? By the way, where's Uncle He? How did the tofu sell today? I'm waiting here just to mention this. Mrs. He's face was beaming with a smile, almost overflowing. Your uncle went to sell tofu today. Using your method of, try before you buy, the tofu sold quite well. He didn't even finish going around another village outside of ours, and it was sold out in just over an hour. Looking at this situation, we won't have trouble selling tofu in the future. As she spoke, Mrs. He led Zhuang Qingning and Zhuang Qingsui forward. You two hurry back and put the things away. I bought a large intestine to stew today. Let's go to my house for lunch. Coincidentally, I have something to discuss with Uncle He and Auntie. Let's go to Auntie's house for lunch. Zhuang Qingning took out a fish she bought in town. I bought this fish in town a while ago. Auntie, you can stew it for lunch. We can eat it together. Keep this fish for dinner. You're being invited over for a meal at our house, you shouldn't have to provide food. Mrs. He said while pushing Zhuang Qingning's hand down, and casually put the fish in the basin in the kitchen. Zhuang Qingning and Zhuang Qingsui came back by bullock cart. Not too much time was wasted, so the fish wasn't quite dead yet. Shortly after it was placed in the water, it flicked its tail and began to swim. In this case, it could be eaten at night or even the next day. Seeing Mrs. He insist, Zhuang Qingning didn't say much more. She simply put things away before heading to Mrs. He's house with her. Seeing Zhuang Qingning and Zhuang Qingsui come home, Zhuang Yonghe quickly stopped weaving his half-finished straw sandals, slapped the dust off his hands. Miss Ning, Miss Sui. Uncle He. Zhuang Qingning and Zhuang Qingsui both greeted in unison. Zhuang Mingho brought over small stools and poured a cup of tea for the two. Big sister Ning, have some tea. Sister Sui, have some tea. Mingho seems to be growing up. Zhuang Qingning said thanks and laughed. Zhuang Mingho looked at Zhuang Yonghe before laughing. If you ask me, it's big sister Ning who has good eyesight. She can tell at a glance that I've grown up. I'm not a little kid anymore. Yet, my parents still think I'm a child and worry about everything. Dad, you heard that, right? Big sister Ning says I'm a grown-up now, so in the future, whatever chores there are at home, let me do some. My build is no worse than my elder brother's. Alright, I'll let you do chores. Zhuang Yonghe glanced at Zhuang Minghe without enthusiasm. This second son was not bad, but his character was somewhat lively and full of laughter. Though he was well-liked, he lacked the steadiness of Zhuang Mingliang, always giving people a sense of unease. Stop whining and fetch some peanuts and sunflower seeds for Miss Ning and Miss Sui. Also, go to the kitchen and help your mother with the fire. All right. Zhuang Minghe quickly handed over the peanuts and sunflower seeds, then went to the kitchen to help. In his comings and goings, he moved like a whirlwind. This child always complains that people don't trust him, yet with his impatience, who can feel reassured? Zhuang Yonghe laughed and handed peanuts and sunflower seeds to Zhuang Qingning and Zhuang Qingsui. We aren't strangers, uncle, so there's no need to be so polite. Zhuang Qingning accepted the peanuts and sunflower seeds, saying as she did so, I'm just afraid that if I'm not polite, you will be. Zhuang Yonghe sat down and said, Today, your auntie invited you over for a meal. Firstly, to thank Miss Ning for entrusting the tofu business to our family. Secondly, to celebrate the success of our first day. Thirdly, to settle accounts with you. This is the money we made from today's tofu sales, a total of 35 coins. Count it. 35 coins, going by the agreed 20% to Zhuang Yonghe. Zhuang Qingning left 7 coins and put the rest into her purse. At the same time, she laughed and said, I heard from auntie that business was good today. Yes. Zhuang Yonghe nodded, Miss Ning, your method is really good. Letting people try before they buy. It makes customers feel reassured, and even more so when they buy. One household bought up to 6 jin of tofu. In one day, she made 7 coins. This was much more than what she could earn from weaving straw sandals, and even more than working in town. The ease of making money made Zhuang Yonghe excited to the point that his nose turned somewhat red. Opening day went well, and the business is good, which is a great thing. But, there are some things I also wanted to discuss with uncle. Zhuang Qingning smiled, concerning the tofu, you should keep to the daily quantity of 40 jin for now. Whether it sells fast or is not enough, doesn't matter. If it sells out, simply return home early. Doing this serves 2 purposes. Firstly, it lets the customers remember us so that our tofu will sell faster in the future. It prevents us from struggling to sell the tofu when the quantity increases. The second point, which is also very important, is that I plan to use this opportunity to establish a good reputation for our tofu and make it well known, letting others recognize that the tofu we make tastes good. Gradually, people will come to buy from us, so we don't always have to traverse the streets and alleys, which can be exhausting. I understand what Miss Ning is saying. Zhuang Yonghe, who was in his 30s, understood what Zhuang Qingning was talking about and nodded. People are generally lazy. If you shout at them every day to buy, people don't want to travel. They just wait for you to bring it to them. But if there is a shortage, people will remember to come to us to buy. In the future, when our tofu is well known, we can make it booming even just by sitting at home. Exactly. Zhuang Qingning smiled. Additionally, there's another matter I'd like to ask for uncle's assistance. Just tell me what it is, there's no need to make it seem like a major inconvenience, Zhuang Yonghe said. Given the large amount of tofu we're now producing, we also use a lot of beans. I previously bought them directly in town, but now if I continue to buy from the town, it's inconvenient to transport back, and the price is also high. So, I think it's better to directly buy beans from our village, which is faster and cheaper. Zhuang Qingning continued, I'm thinking of asking you, uncle, to help me. Gather some beans from the village from time to time for daily tofu production. Purchasing beans is a simple matter as long as you have money, there is always someone selling. But Zhuang Qingning, although she has her own household, is still a young, alone child. She fears that others might take advantage of her youth and cheat her in pricing or measurements. Therefore, she entrusted this task to him. Chapter 56, 056, Salted Duck Egg. Chapter 56, Chapter 056, Salted Duck Egg. Thinking about this, Zhuang Yonghe felt unsettled and hurriedly said, Rest assured, consider this matter handled. I assure you to collect as many beans as you need, clean and good ones at that. We are all from the same village after all. I can first collect beans and pay later. When I've delivered the beans to the mill, you can give me the money, which one can then distribute to them. This way, there's no need to pay in advance and keep track of how much money has been used and how much needs to be paid back, saving us from all these complicated calculations. Agreed. Zhuang Qingning smiled. Then I'm troubling you with this task, Uncle He. No trouble at all, don't mention it. Isn't this what I am supposed to do? Zhuang Yonghe stood up and poured another cup of tea for Zhuang Qingning. If there's anything else you need me to do in the future, feel free to tell me. Agreed. Zhuang Qingning smiled, her eyes curving in amusement. On the other side, Mrs. He had prepared the large intestines, and the smell of steamed rice mixed from brown and white rice was wafting from the pot. She had also stir-fried potato strips, green onion, and egg, and pan-fried the extra piece of tofu that Zhuang Qingning had given her in the morning until it was golden brown and aromatic on both sides. Then she started serving dinner. Everyone was happy, seeing the bounteous meal. That was rare in farming families. They ate with pleasure while chatting. After the meal, Zhuang Yonghe and Mrs. He wanted to keep Zhuang Qingning to talk more, but considering how hard the sisters had worked the night before and how they needed to rest, they dismissed the idea and urged the sisters to go home and rest. Zhuang Qingning and Zhuang Qingsui didn't linger and went home to rest. Late in the evening, they got up to prepare dinner and went to the tofu shop after their meal. Zhuang Mingliang came to help make tofu as usual. After the tofu was ready the next morning, Zhuang Qingning still let him take a piece of tofu with him, along with some tofu pudding. Then, as usual, she set up a stall on the street to sell tofu. The news that Fushun Tower had given up on Changji Tofu Shop and was buying tofu from Zhuang Qingning spread like wildfire. Many people in the town were curious about how delicious Zhuang Qingning's tofu was to let Zhang Yongchang forsake his brother-in-law and offend Chang Yuanda, just to buy her tofu for cooking. With this curiosity, from bun shops, chives dumpling stalls to the common townsfolk, they all came to Zhuang Qingning's tofu stall, intending to buy a piece and taste just how delicious it was. As a result, Zhuang Qingning's tofu stall business became increasingly popular, and the tofu sold out earlier than usual. Many people who came to buy out of their reputation saw Zhuang Qingning already packing up her empty bamboo basket. Some were surprised, some sighed, and some even complained about her not making more tofu. In short, all kinds of comments were made. Regardless of what was said, one thing was clear: the tofu was delicious and popular. Pressed by the demand, Zhuang Qingning slightly increased the amount of tofu she made, but not by too much. As such, there was a situation in town where people were waiting to buy tofu even before Zhuang Qingning set up her stall. That's how business works. The more popular it is, the more people would think that her stuff is good, so more people came to Zhuang Qingning to buy tofu. On the other side, the tofu Zhuang Yonghe and Mrs. He sold was also very well received. Their daily 40 jin of tofu was usually sold out within an hour. An easy 6 or 7 coins in their hands, almost without delaying other tasks, which was a fantastic job. As for Zhuang Mingliang, Zhuang Qingning had already discussed with Zhuang Yonghe and Mrs. He that he would temporarily help her at the tofu shop, with a daily wage of 5 coins. Several busy days had passed like this. Ding, the system warmly reminds the host, the salted duck eggs you have marinated are ready, please unseal them in time. Zhuang Qingning was immediately taken aback. There was a system bug last time and she got a recipe for marinating salted duck eggs. She immediately bought some eggs, marinated them, and put them in a jar. She had been so busy for the past few days that she had almost forgotten about it. Reminded by Xiaowu, Zhuang Qingning took the jar out of the cool corner of the house. After unsealing it, she took out 4 or 5 duck eggs and carefully washed off the layer of yellow mud wrapped on the surface. She boiled water in the pot and put the salted duck eggs on the steamer, steaming them until they were fully cooked over high heat. When taking them out, she ran them under cold water and placed them on the chopping board, cutting the eggs open with a knife. The salted duck egg was split into 2 halves under the sharp knife. Along with the crack noise, there's a golden, gleaming oil left on the knife. It smells so good. Zhuang Qingsui, who stood by, sniffed and exclaimed with admiration. Try it. Zhuang Qingning cut another salted duck egg, gave 2 halves to Zhuang Qingsui, and kept the other 2 halves for herself. She took up a pair of chopsticks and carefully picked up a bit of egg yolk. The golden yolk was exquisitely soft and grainy, with bright yolk oil. Upon tasting it, the egg was indescribably fragrant, soft, and delicious. It's delicious. Zhuang Qingsui again exclaimed in appreciation, this duck egg yolk is rich and oily, very tasty indeed. Then after a mouthful of egg white, she said, the egg white is also delicious, not too salty. Many salted duck eggs have egg yolks that are just right in saltiness, but the egg whites are a bit too salty, causing many people to prefer eating the yolk over the egg white when having salted duck eggs. However, the salted duck eggs in her hand were exceptional. The yolk was rich, aromatic and delicious, and even the egg white was deliciously bouncy, not overly salty and perfect paired with rice. Not bad. Zhuang Qingning couldn't help but nod her head. It seemed that the recipe given by the system was indeed good. It not only solved the problem of the difference in saltiness between the yolk and the egg white, but also greatly shortened the marinating time of the salted duck eggs. Of course, the system is. All right, one know you're a high-quality system, now stop bragging. When you need me, you call me sweetheart, but when you don't, you tell me to stop bragging, you ungrateful host. Xiaowu left in a huff. Really a fragile-hearted system. Zhuang Qingning continued to eat the incredibly fragrant salted duck eggs, while planning how to distribute the jar of salted duck eggs. After much consideration, she decided to wash the rest of the salted duck eggs and steam them all. She gave Zhuang Mingliang a few to take home and planned to bring the rest with her the next day when she went to town to sell tofu. Miss Zhuang, if you find it heavy, you don't have to bring it yourself every day. We live close to each other, you just need to tell me and one will come and pick it up, Lian Rong said, accepting the tofu that Zhuang Qingning had delivered, and smiling. Over this period of time, Fushan Tower had been using the tofu from Zhuang Qingning's home, and their braised tofu was on its way to becoming a top-rated signature dish. Even Zhang Yongchang found it hard to wipe the smile off his face. As Zhang Yongchang's apprentice, as long as his master was happy, he was happy too. If the master approved of the tofu from Zhuang Qingning's home, then he should also be polite to Zhuang Qingning. Chapter 57, 057 Bullying. Chapter 57, Chapter 057 Bullying. It's just 40 taels of tofu, not that heavy or troublesome. Zhuang Qingning laughed, she leaned into the courtyard, is Uncle Zhang around? Oh, master, you just missed him. He just left to buy some stuff, probably some seasonings for the kitchen. Lian Rong raised his eyes and smiled, Miss Zhuang, are you looking for master? We've salted some duck eggs at home, and I was thinking of asking Uncle Zhang to try them and tell us what they taste like. Zhuang Qingning said as she took out salted duck eggs from her bag and handed them to Lian Rong. These two are for you. Lian Rong couldn't help but squint upon seeing this. Zhuang Qingning said she wanted Zhang Yongchang to taste the salted duck eggs she made at home. Since the signature dish of Fushan Tower, golden loin, is made with salted egg yolks, Zhuang Qingning probably wanted to introduce her own salted duck eggs to see if Fushan Tower would buy them. Zhuang Qingning was certainly business savvy. More importantly, she remembered to do favors for even the small fries like them, making them feel flattered and pleased inside. Lian Rong happily took the duck eggs, saying, rest assured, Miss Zhuang. As soon as master comes back, I'll give him the eggs to taste. It's kind of Miss Zhuang to remember me. I've been so busy since morning that I didn't have a chance to eat breakfast. I'll look for a pancake in a bit, and take a couple of bites with this salted duck egg. Having received a favor, Lian Rong naturally expressed his gratitude. You can also taste it to see how it is. If you find anything that doesn't taste right, feel free to tell me. Zhuang Qingning laughed, you go back to your work, one should go back to check my tofu stall. Take care, Miss Zhuang. Lian Rong picked up the tofu, and after grabbing the duck egg, went back to the kitchen. Zhuang Qingning returned to her tofu stall and continued selling her tofu and the few salted duck eggs. She didn't call out to sell or offer tastings for the salted duck eggs. They just sat there next to the tofu, in a very visible spot, attracting the attention of those buying tofu. Miss, are these salted duck eggs? An old man who often bought tofu couldn't resist asking. Yes, they are salted duck eggs. Zhuang Qingning nodded and replied with a smile, We just salted them yesterday and I brought them here today to see if anyone wants to buy. The old man laughed. When you were selling tofu, you were calling out loud. When it comes to these salted duck eggs, you are silent. Are you too embarrassed to call, or do you think you'll sell these? Not really. Zhuang Qingning kept laughing. It's just that we didn't make a lot of these salted duck eggs this time. We only have a few left after keeping some for our own consumption. It doesn't seem worthwhile to sell them. I thought if someone asked, one would sell, otherwise, I would keep them for ourselves. You are an interesting little lady, the old man said, laughing heartily, but given how tasty your tofu is, one bet these duck eggs are probably pretty good too. How much are these salted duck eggs? I'll buy 3 or 4 to pair with my peanuts and alcohol at noon. 2 coins each. That's not expensive at all. Get me 4 then. The old man reached into his money bag. Hold on. An abrupt loud shout made the old man's hand shake, almost dropping his money bag. Taken aback, Zhuang Qingning also looked up to see what was going on. Before she could figure out the situation, Zhang Yongchang swiftly grabbed all the salted duck eggs from the bamboo basket. I'll take all these salted duck eggs, here's your money. Zhang Yongchang, holding the salted duck eggs in one arm, tossed his coin pouch to Zhuang Qingning to count, not even bothering to count the money himself. This, of course, displeased the old man who had just been about to buy the eggs. He gave Zhang Yongchang a sideways glare and yelled, "Hey, Chef Zhang, one was here first, buying these duck eggs. How did you just step in and snatch away my eggs? What are you trying to pull? Bullying me? I don't like what you're saying. How is this bullying? The young lady is selling salted duck eggs, I'm buying them, that's the most normal thing in the world. Where's the bullying?" Zhang Yongchang wasn't about to back down and started arguing with the old man. Also, you said I'm taking your eggs. Where's your proof? I said I was buying 4 duck eggs and was taking out my money when you bought them. If that's not stealing, what is? Wow, that's a really interesting way to put it. You said you were buying, but you didn't take out the money yet. So technically, these still belong to the seller. And I bought them from the seller, the legitimate way, with money. If you're going to say one stole them, you're slandering me. Zhang Yongchang argued, by your logic, does that mean I can just go into any shop and say one plan to buy everything in there and nobody else can buy it because if they do it's considered stealing from me? This is just silly. Let's be clear, one bought these salted duck eggs today. Stop making a fuss and move along. Chef Zhang, you are going too far. Failing to out-argue Zhang Yongchang, the old man started yelling at the people on the street, come and take a look, everyone. The head chef of Fushan Tower is bullying people here. Bullying people, Fushan Tower. Those were all attention-grabbing keywords, especially when it's the head chef of Fushan Tower bullying someone. Naturally, it piqued people's curiosity. So, under the old man's shouting, a crowd gradually gathered, curious to see what was really happening. When they found out that these 2 grown men were arguing over a few salted duck eggs, they were taken aback and began a heated discussion. In my opinion, what Chef Zhang said is not unreasonable. We're all here to buy something. You didn't take out your money, so others could rightfully buy it. You can't just say they stole just because they were faster. You can't just say it like that. He was about to take out the money. If someone else bought it first, wouldn't anyone be angry? Wouldn't you be mad if it happened to you? There's some truth to that, but it's hard to judge who's right and who's wrong in this situation. Never mind who's right or wrong for now. One just want to know how delicious these salted duck eggs this young lady is selling must be, to make 2 grown men argue in the street and disregard their dignity. Exactly, they must be really good. So, the focus of the crowd's attention shifted from who was in the wrong to how delicious Zhuang Qingning's salted duck eggs must be. Chapter 58, 058, Between Laughter and Tears. Chapter 58, Chapter 058, Between Laughter and Tears. Zhuang Qingning also couldn't help but hold up her forehead and sigh. Originally, she saw that the number of salted duck eggs she made this time was rather limited, and salted duck eggs couldn't be sampled as generously as tofu. Therefore, it wasn't suitable to give away too many. So, she decided to put the salted duck eggs in the most prominent position next to the tofu. The idea was to attract people's attention and inspire them to make a purchase voluntarily, thus creating an opening in the market. Unexpectedly, Zhang Yongchang rushed out at this moment and almost started a brawl with the first customer who bought the salted duck eggs, which caused a stir. This incident ironically attracted even more attention, inadvertently hyping up her salted duck eggs. Looking at how several people had already asked about the price of the salted duck eggs and when they would be available for sale in a short while, Zhuang Qingning didn't know whether to interpret this situation as good or bad. However, since this squabble broke out at her stall, she couldn't just ignore it. She hastily tried to mediate. "Uncle Zhang, old man, we are all neighbors. Let's not spoil the relationship over this matter. What kind of amicable relationship do one have with him?" Zhang Yongchang was stubborn and still refused to back down, nor did he agree to the old man's request to return his 4 salted duck eggs. However, in order not to make it too hard for Zhuang Qingning, the stall owner, he simply tossed over a salted duck egg. "Fine, fine. Since Miss Ning insists, I'll give you this egg for free. Consider it as me treating you. Do you think I can't afford the price of 2 salted duck eggs?" The old man's beard bristled at the mention of not needing his money, and his eyes bulged. "Do you really think you need to treat me? It's just that one don't want to lower myself to your level for the sake of this young lady's pleading. Just remember this, if you dare to snatch my things again in the future, I will fight you tooth and nail. Okay lass, I'll let this go for your sake and won't argue with this Chef Zhang this time. It's no trouble for you. Just remember to reserve some salted duck eggs for me next time, so they don't all get snatched away by this scoundrel. Rest assured, old sir. I will definitely save a few for you when the time comes." Seeing that the old man didn't mean to continue causing trouble, Zhuang Qingning quietly breathed a sigh of relief. She spoke a lot before finally sending away the old man. With this matter settled, the spectators left as there was no longer any spectacle to witness. However, the question of how delicious the salted duck eggs sold by Zhuang Qingning actually were was still lingering in their minds. Even a few regular tofu customers, like the old man, had asked Zhuang Qingning to reserve some salted duck eggs for them when available so they could have a taste. With their incessant reminders and requests, Zhuang Qingning couldn't help but find it both amusing and exasperating. With some difficulty finally sending away these people, Zhuang Qingning couldn't help wiping away the beads of sweat that had formed on her forehead from being surrounded by the crowd earlier. "Miss Ning." Zhang Yongchang stuffed the money bag that Zhuang Qingning returned to him into his waistband and asked, "Are there only so few salted duck eggs left? Do you have any more?" "These are all." Zhuang Qingning smiled. "One only pickled about a dozen this time. I divided some for my own home, gave a few to you just now, and the rest are here." "I see." A trace of disappointment crossed Zhang Yongchang's face. "Uncle Zhang, do you find these salted duck eggs quite tasty?" Zhuang Qingning raised her eyebrows. "It's not just that they are tasty, they are incredibly delicious." Zhang Yongchang became animated when it came to this topic. "I won't hide it from you. I used to live in the prefectural city, and also stayed in the county town. I've never tasted such delicious salted duck eggs. Just now, as soon as I came back, that young man Lien Rong brought over some salted duck eggs, saying they were pickled by your family. He wanted me to have a taste, and I thought since they were from your place, the taste must be fine. So, one tried one. At least I had the chance to try one. Otherwise, one might not even have these few left." As Zhang Yongchang spoke, a smile spread across his face, which seemed to be tinged with an air of flattery. "Miss Ning, what if you pickled some more salted duck eggs? If you can pickle more salted duck eggs and maintain the same exquisite flavor, I can assure you that one can help you sell as many as you can produce. Miss Ning, don't doubt me. Although Fushun Tower doesn't need that many salted duck eggs every day, one used to work in the kitchen in the county town. One know many restaurants and pickled food shops, and I could sell your salted duck eggs to them. And the price would only be high, not low. Would you pickle more salted duck eggs, then? At least, let it be enough for Fushun Tower itself. Since Uncle Zhang has spoken in this manner, I will pickle more salted duck eggs." Zhuang Qingning was pleased by Zhang Yongchang's high praise for the salted duck eggs and chuckled. "Then from now on, I will only take care of pickling, not selling, okay? You just take care of the pickling, I'll take care of the rest." Zhang Yongchang's lifted chin almost reached the sky. With such delicious salted duck eggs, he was more worried that there wouldn't be enough to sell rather than not being able to sell them off. "All right, then. I will follow your advice, Uncle Zhang. Zhuang Qingning smiled, but I should clarify a few things. The reason why my salted duck eggs are so delicious is because I used a secret recipe. One of the ingredients in it is quite rare, so even if one started to make more, the quantity wouldn't be too large. Zhuang Qingning said this for several reasons. First, she was worried that the recipe powder in the system wouldn't refresh fast enough. Second, she wanted to control the quantity of the salted duck eggs to maintain a sense of scarcity, which could help establish a high-value reputation. Third, if the quantity was too large, she worried she might not be able to control the quality. I understand. Any good things are usually not produced in large quantities, otherwise how could they be hard to come by? Zhang Yongchang had a good understanding of this. You just do your best. Having fewer could be a good thing, it makes people desire them more. Just like how the tofu dishes in Fushan Tower were often in short supply, Zhang Yongchang didn't intend to increase the purchase of tofu immediately. The same logic applied here. Seeing that Zhang Yongchang had the same understanding, Zhuang Qingning smiled. That's how it is. Then you don't need to worry about this, Uncle Zhang. I'll handle it. When this batch of salted duck eggs is ready, I'll let you know and deliver them to you. Okay, then I'll count on you to pickle more salted duck eggs. Having settled this, Zhang Yongchang chatted amiably with Zhuang Qingning for a bit before he prepared to return to Fushan Tower to prepare for the lunch cooking. When he reached the entrance of Fushan Tower, he turned back and quickly returned. By the way, I just remembered something important. Chapter 59, 059, Ruthless Hand. Chapter 59, Chapter 059, Ruthless Hand. Even though I said earlier that I'll help you sell your salted duck eggs, it doesn't mean they can only be sold to me. If others want to, you can sell to them freely, Zhang Yongchang said. I understand, thank you, Uncle Zhang. Zhuang Qingning cracks a smile, her teeth white and shiny like corn kernels. Most people, upon seeing a good thing, wouldn't hesitate to keep it all to themselves, mainly considering whether it would benefit them and disregarding whether you'd find it a struggle. PPI like Zhang Yongchang, who can think more liberally, are not many. Zhuang Qingning suddenly feels that this Zhang Yongchang, who is known to be stubborn and hard to get along with, is actually a very good person. All right, you can get back to your work. Seeing Zhuang Qingning understood his intention, Zhang Yongchang can't help but smile. It's easy to talk to a smart kid. Unlike those slow ones, they take forever to understand something, and you have to waste time explaining things to them, which is really frustrating. The more Zhang Yongchang thinks, the more he feels that Zhuang Qingning is a great girl. Feeling happy with the salted duck eggs in his hand, he hums a tune as he enters the backyard. Gosh. Ma Tong is in the backyard, preparing to transfer the boiled water into a pot to make tea later. Seeing Zhang Yongchang's triumphantly gleeful expression, he is surprised. The way he's carrying those salted duck eggs, it looks like he's found a treasure. It seems he'll have to find Lian Rong later and see if he can get a salted duck egg to try. What could taste so good that it would make Zhang Yongchang act like this? Outside, the street has returned to tranquility after Zhang Yongchang and the old men, the instigators of the commotion, left. However, Zhuang Qingning's stall remains busy. Customers either come to buy tofu, or they are there to pre-order salted duck eggs. After all, everyone wants to taste the salted duck eggs that nearly caused a fight between Zhang Yongchang and someone else. Zhuang Qingning tallies the number of orders and roughly estimates how many duck eggs she needs to buy today and how much coarse salt she needs to prepare. It seems that Zhuang Yuanhe will need to focus on buying both beans and duck eggs in the future. In general, farmers usually raise chickens and ducks at home aside from farming. Everyone sees each other often in the village, so no one would dare to deceive others with low-quality goods, thus duck eggs are quite common. Due to Zhuang Qingning's busy stall, the areas around hers start to look deserted. In particular, the stall holders who also sell vegetables and eggs look at Zhuang Qingning's thriving business with envying and jealous eyes, their gazes constantly moving around her. Look at this, look at this. Look how good her business is. If you keep up like this, not only will your business be affected, but I think there won't be a space for Changji tofu stall in this town in the future. In a corner, Chang Yuanda is standing, his eyebrows furrowed while he's staring at Zhuang Qingning's tofu stall seriously. Next to him, the one who's anxiously advising him and regretting is none other than Li Fang, the waiter who was just kicked out of Fushan Tower a few days ago. Uncle Chang, we really can't delay this matter. If we continue to let this girl's tofu stall flourish, I'm afraid no one will remember your Changji tofu shop. Look at how she has fooled Chef Zhang into forgetting about your tofu. Now, in addition to wanting to help her sell salted duck eggs in the county town, if these eggs are sold there, they will definitely bring her tofu to the county too. Then Changji Tofu Shop will really go out of business. Uncle Chang, Changji Tofu Shop has been a reputable name for many years. It used to have a booming business in town. If it falls apart under your management, it will be really embarrassing. Listening to this, Chang Yuanda frowns even tighter. His business is being threatened, and he's very anxious. Now, hearing Li Fang mention the possibility of closing his shop, his worries are growing. I'm also quite desperate now, but my brother-in-law is heartless and ruthless, and all the other restaurants, bakeries, and such are simply following trends, and one really don't know what they are thinking. I've thought about it, why don't we lower the price of tofu for some time? She sells 2.5 jeans for 2 coins, so I'll sell 1.5 to 2 jeans. I'll offer an extra half jean for 2 coins. I refuse to believe that people won't come to buy my tofu. Uncle Chang. Upon hearing this, Li Fang can't help but curl his lips and roll his eyes at him. Lowering the price can work, but it affects the profit. Even if we grab some business, we won't make much money from all the hard work. Once you restore the price, these spectators will still run wherever they can buy things cheaper. Besides, Uncle Chang, I've noticed that since Chef Zhang and others are willing to give up Changji Tofu Shop's tofu and choose the girl's tofu instead, it suggests that her tofu has some unique qualities. Even if the price is lowered, people who want to buy will still buy it. It's not a long-term solution after all. The best way is to nip it in the bud and cut off the girl's tofu business from its root. Chang Yuanda lowered his head to think, and said, "You do make some sense, but how to cut it off from the root? You surely can't say, you're not allowed to grind tofu anymore." Seeing Li Fang, Chang Yuanda looks puzzled. "Do you have an idea?" "I indeed have an idea, it depends on whether you can make a tough decision." Li Fang raises his hand, beckoning Chang Yuanda to lean closer, and whispers in his ear. "Can this really work?" After listening, Chang Yuanda frowns even tighter, and his expression becomes more serious. "Why wouldn't it work?" Li Fang smirks and says, "I've checked these past few days. The girl's parents died early, she has neither brothers nor a sister. Her only uncle doesn't treat them well, he only berates and physically abuses them. The 2 girls have just established a female household. Once the female household approval is given, it's equivalent to cutting off ties with the uncle's family. In the future, if anything happens, there will be no one to stick up for the 2 of them. You've got nothing to worry about." Chapter 60, 060, Giving Silver is. Chapter 60, Chapter 060, Giving Silver is. Besides, when you're doing business, you've to be tough. If you simply keep being benevolent to others, will others be benevolent to you? Uncle Chang, I don't mean to speak ill of Chef Zhang, but facts are right before our eyes. You call him brother-in-law out of respect and always consider his feelings. You even consult him in times of trouble, but has he ever thought about you? He unilaterally decided not to use our tofu without saying a word and showed no remorse towards you. This isn't about money, it's about the disrespect towards you, a slap in your face. The people at Fushan Tower are just laughing at your expense. This is the result of your benevolence, Uncle Chang. As for Chef Zhang, he doesn't care about you at all. I've seen him going about his business as usual these past 2 days. He's even trying to help that damn girl sell salted duck eggs. This is the payback for your benevolence. In my opinion, we shouldn't think too much. We just need to do what we have to do, block the routes of others and cut off any connections. Only by blocking others' paths can we have our own path, right? If we keep being benevolent to others, we will have nowhere to go. Li Fang pleaded earnestly, Uncle Chang, at this point, you mustn't show tender kindness, stop considering others. You do make some sense. But carrying out this deed was really a bit too much. While Chang Yuanda was hesitating, 2 middle-aged women carrying bamboo baskets walked by them. Hey, what are you cooking for lunch? I have no idea what to cook every day. My husband complains that my dishes lack variety and he's fed up. For lunch, fry some tofu slices, cut them into strips and mix them. It's hot these days, so a cold dish is good to go with the meal. Alright, I'll also make tofu strips and stir-fry some celery. That should be enough. Let's go to Chang's tofu shop to buy some tofu. Why go there? I know a place, it's a new tofu stall on the street and their tofu tastes really good. If you make tofu strips with their tofu, one guarantee your husband will praise your culinary skills. Believe me, always choose tofu from those two girls' stall. Chang's tofu is inedible. Chang's tofu, totally inedible. These words echoed in Chang Yuenda's ears, like a heavy hammer pounding on his heart, causing a twinge of pain. His Chang's tofu was once on everyone's lips and was widely praised. People always came to his shop for tofu and said others' tofu was inedible. How did it turn into, Chang's tofu is totally inedible? Chang Yuenda clenched his fist tightly. It seemed that Li Fang was right. He had to cut off the root to enable Chang's tofu shop to survive. Otherwise, if he kept being benevolent to others, he'd end up with nowhere to go dash. You're right, Chang Yuenda agreed with Li Fang's words and just nodded. We should do as you suggest. Exactly, Li Fang frowned. We must act this way, sooner rather than later, otherwise Chang's tofu shop won't survive. We cannot delay, let's find the people we need, do what we have to do, the sooner, the better. Every day we delay, Chang's tofu shop is in more danger. That's true, Brother Li, please find someone for me quickly, Chang Yuenda said. You need to take care of this for me, Chang's tofu shop is all relying on you now. Just leave it to me. I promise 1 foot 11 inches handle everything beautifully for you, Li Fang readily agreed. He could hardly suppress a smile. Since being fired from Fushun Tower, Li Fang immediately started looking for work in town. He was a waiter before and naturally, he wanted an easy job that he was comfortable with. After spending 2 days walking around the town, visiting big and small restaurants and eating houses, he found no suitable employment. The wages were low, the workload was heavy, and everyone kept asking questions about why he was fired by Fushun Tower. He got annoyed, decided those restaurants were not up to standard, and their business was poor. Frustrated, Li Fang saw Zhuang Qingning's tofu stall getting more and more popular. His heart was filled with indignation and bitterness. He decided Zhuang Qingning was the one who destroyed his chances of a livelihood. The sins he suffered should be tasted by that damned girl, Zhuang Qingning. Everyone must understand, no one can be that arrogant. Of course, the one who kicked him out, Zhang Yongchang, and the accomplice Feng Yongkang wouldn't get away with it either. Every debt of gratitude would be returned bit by bit. So after contemplation, Li Fang went straight to Chang's tofu shop and sought Chang Yuenda and then started sobbing. He cried about how he had been looking out for Chang's tofu shop and secretly warned him of someone's business encroachment, how he suppressed rumors of better tofu outside, and then how he annoyed Chef Zhang and was driven away because of that. His current predicament and words quickly won Chang Yuenda's trust, and the ongoing whispering in his ear these days had gradually ignited his rage, successfully arousing his wrath. Finally today, using some petty tricks, Chang Yuenda determined to teach that damn girl a lesson. It seems his goal will soon be achieved, and he will soon see the 2 damn girls following his path. Thinking about it, Li Fang felt increasingly pleased. He simply couldn't wait to arrange the manpower that would soon be needed. While at this time, Chang Yuenda scratched his nose. People needed a lesson, and those who deserved to be cut off should be expelled. In any case, he just had to pay the silver. If he could clear the stones on the road, and his tofu shop would have an unobstructed way in the future, it would be the best. But if some accident happened, he just had to pay the silver. After Zhuang Qingning and Zhuang Qingsui sold the tofu and bought some necessary stuff, they went home. Upon arriving home, they did not even take the time to eat lunch. They straightaway went to find Zhuang Yonghe and Mrs. Su and talked about the duck egg purchasing operation. Collecting beans is one thing, and collecting duck eggs is another. While not every household grows beans, because of the many ponds around here and the river nearby, many people raise ducks, making duck eggs easier to collect. Chapter 61, 061, Seeing Hope. Chapter 61, Chapter 061, Seeing Hope. Zhuang Yonghe quickly agreed, saying that the first batch of 30 duck eggs could be delivered by evening. Once the deal was made, Zhuang Qingning headed home to prepare for lunch. Mrs. He intended to stay for lunch, but her homemade sweet potato noodles, accompanied only by dried sesame leaves from before, weren't exactly a feast, so she had to drop the idea. Before leaving, she handed Zhuang Qingning a bunch of garlic sprouts. Zhuang Qingning had bought pork belly for lunch, planning to cook twice-cooked pork belly. Now that she had garlic sprouts, it was perfect to make a side dish. After boiling the pork belly, she took it out, sliced it, and stir-fried it. Steamed cornbread, twice-cooked pork belly with garlic sprouts, sautéed shredded potato, and a vegetable soup. By evening, when the sisters woke up, Zhuang Qingning started cooking dinner while Zhuang Qingsui hurried to water the vegetable plots in the courtyard before sunset. The diverse variety of vegetables was growing robustly. The vine vegetables like cucumber, wax gourd, and pumpkin have developed strong vines, climbing up the bamboo poles or fences around their courtyards. The courtyard's garlic sprouts, chives, tomatoes, green peppers, and so on, were growing well with plump, bright green leaves, glistening under the afterglow of the setting sun. The vegetables are growing really well, Zhuang Qingsui commented while watering the plants. After listening to Zhuang Qingning's constant chatter about how fertile the soil in the courtyard was, Zhuang Qingsui eventually came to believe that it was the rich soil that made the vegetables thrive so well, and had no more doubts about it. Zhuang Qingning, seeing Zhuang Qingsui's doubts had disappeared, felt much relieved. She laughed and said, "Your diligent care is what made this all possible. By the way, let's cut some chives and stir-fry them with egg." "All right." Zhuang Qingsui agreed cheerfully. The chives in their yard were transplanted from Mrs. He's field. In just a few days, tender green buds had sprouted from the roots, making it the perfect time to enjoy fresh chives, which would not taste too tough. Once the sisters finished cooking, Zhuang Yonghe paid them a visit to deliver the collected beans and duck eggs. "Thank you, Uncle He, for your hard work." Zhuang Qingning hurriedly took the items. "Well, isn't that what I should do?" Zhuang Yonghe wiped the sweat off his brow after hurriedly walking. Indeed, since Zhuang Qingning called him uncle, she was his niece, and she never let him work for nothing. Therefore, in every sense, Zhuang Yonghe felt he should do his part and more. "The beans are heavy, I'll take them directly to the tofu shop for you, and save you from moving them back and forth." Zhuang Yonghe left the duck eggs behind, shouldered the beans, and headed off to the tofu shop, ignoring Zhuang Qingning's offer for him to stay for dinner. Once the duck eggs were delivered, Zhuang Qingning didn't waste any more time. After quickly finishing their meal, she pickled the duck eggs and sealed them in jars. When the time was right, she and Zhuang Qingsui went to the tofu shop to make tofu. The tofu business was booming day by day. As the clientele became more and more stable, many restaurants, bun shops, chive dumpling stands in the town, and even cooks who prepared banquet dishes, purchased tofu from Zhuang Qingning. Zhuang Yonghe's business on his side was also very good. Many people had gradually started to buy tofu from them directly. Even rainy days seemed to have minimal impact on Zhuang Qingning's business now. Zhuang Qingning had gradually increased the production of tofu, including the supply to Zhuang Yonghe, which had been increased from the original 40 jin to 60 jin. Zhuang Yonghe and Mrs. He grinned from ear to ear because of this. 60 jin of tofu a day could earn them about 10 won. In addition to Zhuang Mingliang's wages, Zhuang Yonghe's wages for collecting beans and duck eggs, they could earn more than half a tael of silver in a month, that is, 6 or 7 taels of silver in a year. For a family, the total expenditure on food, clothing, and the medical expenses for Xiaoxi amounted to no more than 3 or 4 taels of silver in a year. This meant they could live more comfortably in the future and even save some money. If this could go on and on, they might gradually be able to save enough money for the children's future housing and marriage costs. Zhuang Yonghe and Mrs. He felt that they had seen the hope of life. Even the meals of the family had improved somewhat in recent days. In the past, their table was full of seasonal vegetables from the field, with pickled vegetables, and they ate steamed cornbread made of sweet potato or cornmeal as much as possible. But lately, they could occasionally enjoy cornmeal pancakes, and they could even stir-fry eggs for the family to boost morale. Today, in particular, they made stir-fried chives with eggs at home, and Zhuang Mingho couldn't help but remark, "Mother really cares for us. She knows we've been busy lately and is letting us replenish our strength. Lately, your elder brother has been working at the tofu shop, your father has to sell tofu early in the morning while also helping to collect beans and duck eggs, and can't take care of the work in the field or at home. You two have worked hard, plowing the fields and helping me out. Mrs. He said with a smile. Isn't this what we should do? Zhuang Mingho scratched his ear bashfully at the praise. We're already grown-ups. That's right. The younger two chimed in. Their children were thoughtful and understanding, which made Mrs. He squinted with joy. Zhuang Yonghe cleared his throat and said, Our family has always lived on a tight budget. Your mother and I knew you were working hard, but we just couldn't afford anything better. We wanted to give you better food, but we just couldn't. Now we can afford such treats. We owe it to Mingliang, who can work at the tofu shop, and to the success of my tofu business. All in all, if our family is living better now, it's mostly thanks to Miss Ning. In the future, you should also be more diligent and help her out with her work. Don't worry, Dad, we understand. Zhuang Mingliang replied confidently. Lately, apart from grinding tofu at the tofu shop, during his free time, he had voluntarily helped Zhuang Qingning to keep the water tank at home filled. This saved Zhuang Qingning and Zhuang Qingsui from having to do this laborious task. And also. Zhuang Yonghe paused, his tone growing solemn. You must also remember one thing, Miss Ning has always taken special care of our family, showing great trust in us. She probably does so because when her family had just set up a new household, your mother sent over some cornmeal. She has been thinking of us ever since. So, in the future, you must remember one thing, always be kind to other people. When you can afford to help others, try to help as much as you can. Doing more good deeds, more acts of kindness will always bring benefits in the end. Chapter 62, 062, Sadness. Chapter 62, Chapter 062, Sadness. Did you all write it down? Yes, we did. Zhuang Mingliang and the other children obediently responded. Good, let's hurry up and eat. Even though his own children were occasionally mischievous, they were generally sensible and obedient, much better behaved than most children. Zhuang Yonghe always took pride in this. Mrs. He was also gleefully serving everyone scrambled eggs with chives. Zhuang Yonghe got the most, then his brothers had equal portions, and finally, after some thought, he gave some of his own portion to Zhuang Mingliang. These days, he was the one who had worked the hardest. Among the brothers, they also felt that it was only natural that their eldest brother was busy all the time and they didn't harbor any complaints. While this family was in a harmonious bliss, Zhuang Rumen's household was in chaos. Zhuang Yuanren had set out to participate in the prefectural examination and had asked for some travel expenses before leaving. Finally, the family had a scholar, someone who could bring honor to their name, and lead the family with pride. So when Zhuang Rumen and Mrs. Song gave money to Zhuang Yuanren, they were not stingy, giving even more than what he had requested. They even instructed Zhuang Yuanren to make more friends during the examination in the prefectural city and not to be frugal with money. Zhuang Yuanren promised, took the hopes of his family with him, and set out on the road to the prefectural examination. Zhuang Rumen and Mrs. Song spent the following days with lots of sighs. They were worried about Zhuang Yuanren's examination. Although Zhuang Yuanren had always been praised by his teacher and he himself was confident, success in learning wasn't such an easy task, was it? Secondly, they were worried about the family's livelihood. After giving out this large sum of money, the family's savings were nearly depleted. No matter whether Zhuang Yuanren passed the examination, the future expenses would not be less than present. The money was flowing out like water. When Zhuang Qingning and Zhuang Qingsui were at home, they were strong laborers, and could finish most of the work in the field. Zhuang Rumen didn't have to work so hard, and could occasionally find some odd jobs in the town to supplement the family income. But now without Zhuang Qingning and Zhuang Qingsui, Zhuang Qinghe, who was always whining about pain here and there, and Zhuang Yuanzhong, who was too young to be of use, all the work in the field fell on Zhuang Rumen and Mrs. Song. Busy all day tending the fields, they no longer had time to earn some extra money. The income from the field was not enough to support the family. Zhuang Rumen and Mrs. Song were left scratching their heads, constantly figuring out where to make money. But one is a typical farmer, and the other is a simple farm woman. Neither had any remarkable skills and couldn't find a suitable place or method to make money. Until they found a way, Zhuang Rumen and Mrs. Song could only try to save money on everyday expenses, to save some for Zhuang Yuanren's future use. However, under this scheme, "Mom, why are we eating pickled vegetables again today?" Zhuang Qinghe, who didn't get up until late in the morning, frowned at the glaring plate of pickled vegetables on the table. She grumpily sat on a chair and picked at the porridge made of corn grits with her chopsticks. Corn grits porridge, without even a bit of rice mixed in. How rough. And this cornbread made from sweet potato flour, we eat it every day until my stomach produces gastric acid. It's so uncomfortable. Mom, I've been feeling uncomfortable these days. Can you steam some white buns for me to eat? They say that we are what we eat. If you eat colored food, you grow to that color. Now, in the spring, when the wind is strong, it's easy to ruin one's complexion. Soon it will be summer and she will be tanned again. If she continued to eat this cornbread made from sweet potato flour, wouldn't she become uglier? To maintain a fair complexion, she must eat more white flour and rice. Are you too uncomfortable because of resting too much? Zhuang Rumen glanced at Zhuang Qinghe. If you go to the field more often to do some work, you will feel better everywhere. In the past, when she had Zhuang Qingning and her sister, Zhuang Qinghe could be lazy. After all, a daughter should be spoiled, making her more graceful, less like a rustic village girl, and then marrying into a good family, she could look dignified. But now it's different. Without people to work for her, if Zhuang Qinghe doesn't go work, it wouldn't be right. Zhuang Rumen was becoming increasingly dissatisfied with his lazy daughter who shirked work all day. Zhuang Qinghe had been scolded a lot by Zhuang Rumen recently. Dead girls away back then, there would be people to do the work in the field, and people to serve me, life would be so much better. I heard these past few days that the two dead girls have been doing well with the tofu business since they rented the tofu shop. They sell out of tofu every day, they have made a lot of money. I saw them eating meat yesterday, and a few days ago, I saw them buy fish to eat. Chapter 63, 063, Sensible. Chapter 63, Chapter 063, Sensible. Every day, they enjoy meals of flour and rice, and have fried eggs at every meal. It's almost so good that it makes your eyes bleed with envy. If mother hadn't driven them away, all the money those two dead girls are making now would be ours. We'd have as much money as we wanted and wouldn't have to eat steamed cornbread and pickles here. The main thing is, they could wear as many beautiful clothes as they wanted, even better than what Zhuang Qingning wears and more attractive than the hair ribbon Zhuang Qingsui ties on top of her head. When Zhuang Qinghe thought about the fact that those things, which should have been hers, were being enjoyed by Zhuang Qingning and Zhuang Qingsui, those two dead girls, she was extremely angry. She almost wanted to snap the chopsticks in her hand in half. Why bring up this topic now? Mrs. Song worriedly glanced at Zhuang Rumen and indeed saw his gloomy expression, immediately making her shrink her neck. They were initially waiting for those two dead girls to return home eventually, after failing to secure any land or money. When they could no longer afford meals, they'd have no choice but to come back home. But despite waiting so long, the two never returned. Instead, they saw Zhuang Qingning and Zhuang Qingsui rent Mrs. Wen's tofu shop and sell tofu in town every day, and their business had become increasingly successful. Watching the two, whose life seemed to be getting better and better, was totally unexpected. Zhuang Rumen and Mrs. Song were incredibly anxious. If this continues, those two dead girls will certainly not come back. Because of this matter, Zhuang Rumen held a grudge for a long time, and he found Mrs. Song increasingly annoying. He scolded her a few times for no apparent reason. Mrs. Song had been sweet-talking him, trying to calm him down. Finally, Zhuang Rumen looked a bit less angry these 2 days, but Zhuang Qinghe brought up the topic again now. Does she want Zhuang Rumen to be more angry? Just eat your meal quietly, why say so much? Mrs. Song felt Zhuang Qinghe was being quite flippant, just causing trouble. She scolded her, just hurry up and eat. If you're not eating, then don't eat. No one is going to care about you. Ultimately, this meal, take it or leave it. While father has become increasingly harsh on her, mother too seems to care less and less about her now. Zhuang Qinghe wiped away a large tear. Zhuang Yuanzhong, sitting to the side, was tearing off chunks of sweet potato bun and chewing them slowly, his brows furrowed. A black noodle steamed bun is of course, not as tasty as the steamed bun made from white flour. If things continue this way, he would indeed need to think of a solution. Zhuang Yuanzhong blinked. Sister, the family is tight on resources right now. Could you be a bit more patient? Once our days get better, will Mummy and Daddy still mistreat us? Look, even Yuanzhong, at his age, is more sensible than you, his older sister. Zhuang Rumen barked. Zhuang Yuanzhong shrugged. Dad, don't blame sister. She is a girl, and seeing others so talented, earning money and being able to work, she just feels a bit inferior. Does she feel shame now? Zhuang Rumen sneered. With her stupidity matching that of Mrs. Song and her idle attitude, it would be strange if she knew how to strive for progress. But when compared, it is indeed true. If someone else's daughters are able to earn so much, and live a wealthy and prosperous life, why does his daughter achieve nothing? Zhuang Rumen grew increasingly displeased with Zhuang Qinghe as he stared at her. After eating, hurry up and go do some chores. If you dare to slack off again, don't eat any more. Zhuang Qinghe couldn't help but shrink her neck. While Mrs. Song might spoil her, Zhuang Rumen was stern. If he threatened not to feed her, he would indeed it. Zhuang Qinghe sobbed and gave a little nod, then she continued to eat the distasteful black noodle steamed bun, and the throat-irritating cornmeal porridge. Zhuang Yuanzhong smirked a little. With Zhuang Rumen's gaze fixated on Zhuang Qinghe, he paid less attention to him, giving him a chance to slack off a bit while working. This house is not his alone. Zhuang Yuanren is not his only older brother, who knows what the future holds. He can't possibly shoulder all the responsibilities alone, right? Sharing the workload seems fair, especially since he's just a child. Zhuang Yuanzhong slurped down his meal of cornmeal mush with delight, as if it were a delicious bowl of white rice porridge. Sons really are the best. Zhuang Rumen sighed in his heart, shooting another discontented glance at Zhuang Qinghe and also hit Mrs. Song as collateral. Those two were absolutely useless, just looking at them was annoying. Zhuang Rumen's was upset, having lost appetite to eat. This sweet potato bread was indeed a bit hard to swallow, so he casually ate a couple of bites, wiped his mouth and went into the house. Seeing Zhuang Rumen upset, Mrs. Song felt her heart skip a beat, looking anxiously into the house without daring to follow him in and placate him. All she could do was quietly finish eating her own meal, then clean up the bowl and chopsticks. After tidying up everything, she didn't dare to call for Zhuang Rumen, so she just took Zhuang Qinghe and Zhuang Yuanzhong off to the fields to do farm work. On their way to the fields, she deliberately made a detour and stopped by Mrs. Wen's house. At the moment, Mrs. Wen's courtyard is very quiet, except for her tidying up the courtyard while feeding the chickens. She was feeding them cornmeal mush. Mrs. Song felt a pang of pain in her heart when she saw it. Mrs. Wen was so extravagant because Zhuang Qingning's tofu business was doing well, providing her with a generous rent. Just as she was thinking, a loud sales voice came from the side. Fresh tofu, hot tofu. It was Zhuang Yonghe's voice. These days, from the break of dawn, Zhuang Yonghe's cries for selling tofu echo throughout the village, and with the ups and downs of his voice, various households would come out with copper coins to buy tofu. It seemed like they were buying a fair amount, by Jean or two. Not long after, while she was working in the field, she saw Zhuang Yonghe happily returning to the village with an empty basket and a shoulder pole. His tofu sold out completely. Zhuang Yonghe's involvement in tofu selling must mean he was making money, and judging by the look of things, it seemed to be quite a lot. Those two ungrateful girls. She had no clue how much money they were making behind her back. If those two had not run away from home before, all the money they made would have ended up in her own hands. Would their home still be as financially strained as it is now? They certainly would have been living a life of luxury, not even worried about Zhuang Yuanren's school fees or examination preparation expenses. Watching their cash cow flaunting in public, while others were able to easily grab a handful of golden leaves, all she could do was stare in disappointment. This made Mrs. Song's heartache even worse. Those two ungrateful girls. Mrs. Song cursed a couple more times. How nice would it have been if they had just stayed at home, helping her earn money and doing their chores properly. Instead, they caused a ruckus that now constantly led to Zhuang Rumen's complaints. Chapter 64. 064, Damn Thing. Chapter 64, Chapter 064, Damn Thing. Having lingered outside for a while, Mrs. Song drew the attention of Mrs. Wen, who was now scattering the last handful of grains from her small basin onto the ground. Narrowing her eyes, she shot a glare at Mrs. Song. What, are some people like dogs, drawn towards anything they catch a scent of? Mrs. Wen scoffed. Mrs. Song shrank back a bit. Mrs. Wen was not someone she could afford to provoke. Even though Wen seemed to be getting older, the sharp look on her face suggested she could still bring Mrs. Song to her knees. Once Mrs. Song had been chased down 2 streets by Mrs. Wen for greedily plucking the tune buds extending over Wen's yard wall in the spring. Moreover, Mrs. Wen had proceeded to pour the contents of her chamber pot at Mrs. Song's front door each evening. No change was brought about even when Mrs. Song returned the buds out of helplessness. Mrs. Wen continued to make Mrs. Song's life miserable. The fear of Mrs. Wen had gotten real for Mrs. Song. "I was merely passing by, he. Mrs. Song chuckled awkwardly a couple of times. Not daring to linger any longer, she hastily started preparing Zhuang Qinghe and Zhuang Yuanzhong to return to work. "Damn you!" With a huff, Mrs. Wen closed the courtyard door and returned to her room. The weather today was incredible. By incredible, it didn't mean a bright sunshine, which could be too hot during a mild spring day like this. The present overcast yet warm weather, which was not too hot and came with a gentle breeze, felt just right. Given the pleasant weather, a lot of people were outside, which meant Zhuang Qingning's tofu stall was doing a great business. The tofu was selling out fast, drawing closer to an empty tray. When the last piece of tofu was sold, Zhuang Qingning started packing up her stall. "Do you have any more tofu?" An old woman with white hair, older than Mrs. Liu, shuffled over, her back hunched. "I'm afraid I just sold out." Zhuang Qingning apologized. "Please come back tomorrow." "All right then." The old woman sighed deeply, shaking her head. "Each day I come, each day I can't get any. If it's all gone, I'll come back tomorrow." "All right, please be careful on your way," Zhuang Qingning cheerfully advised the woman. "Sure." The old woman responded with a smile, "You're a sweet talker which makes me feel good. But don't worry about me, my house is just ahead, very close, only a short walk away. Ever since my husband passed away, my children have been very busy and don't come back from the county." Ah. Being an elder living alone, she often found herself without anyone to talk to. As a result, she had a tendency to chatter incessantly about her family affairs whenever she met someone. Zhuang Qingning didn't seem to be put off by this. She simply replied with a smile and, after the woman had moved away, proceeded to collect her belongings and planned to head home early. She planned to purchase some pork tenderloin and mix it with the fresh green chives from her garden to make scrumptious chive dumplings for a meal. By the way, she also had to buy some soy sauce and vinegar, and finally pick up some cloth. Summer was approaching, it was best to prepare summer clothing in advance. After returning home, she did not sit down to rest but started kneading the dough for dumplings. All this time, Zhuang Qingsue was picking chives from their courtyard to use in their cooking, which she cleaned next to the kitchen door. "In my opinion, our homegrown chives are the best." Zhuang Qingsue plucked the wilted leaves off each chive as she remarked, "The chive pastry I had in the town this morning was so bad." A smirk curled up on Zhuang Qingning's lips. "These chives are cultivated using a growth liquid, which naturally makes them taste different. Then you should eat more later." Zhuang Qingning gathered the freshly minced meat, combining it with various condiments including ginger and garlic, and mixed it all together in a ceramic bowl. "Absolutely," Zhuang Qingning responded, gesturing to her slightly chubby chin. Zhuang Qingning, with a smile in her eyes, helped clean the chives, chop them and mix them with the meat. Once the filling was prepared and the dough had risen, they rolled the dough into thin sheets, cut them into small pieces and folded them into dumplings. Zhuang Qingsue then started helping with shaping the dumplings. Once all the dumplings were shaped, half of them were cooked in boiling water, then divided between 2 different plates. "Qingsue, take this to Aunt He's house." "I'll take this plate to Aunt One." "Okay." Zhuang Qingsue washed her hands, covered the plate with a cloche, and carried it over to Mrs. He's house. Zhuang Qingning, on the other hand, headed to Mrs. Wen's house. Zhuang Qingning returned home early today, and in her haste, she put in extra effort to make dumplings. At this time, everyone had just started cooking, and some people had just returned home from the fields, not yet having had a chance to start preparing their meals. At this point, Mrs. Wen was at home choosing the young vegetables from her garden, planning to have noodle soup for lunch. "Aunt Wen." Zhuang Qingning walked straight into the courtyard. "Qingsue and I made dumplings for lunch. I brought a plate over for you. Please give them a try and let us know if you like the taste." "Leave it there." Mrs. Wen dusted off the dirt from her hands as she spoke. "Since you made dumplings, you should have said earlier." I just went to the field to harvest some vegetables, and now they won't be used for lunch. By dinner time, they will be wilted. Mrs. Wen always spoke bluntly, but Zhuang Qingning was used to it. She merely carried the dumplings to the kitchen, found a clean plate to transfer them to, and covered it with a large bowl to keep them warm. Remember to cat while it's hot, or else it won't taste as good. Zhuang Qingning cleaned the plate and stepped out of the kitchen. I'll be leaving now. Saying so, she turned around to leave. Oh right, Mrs. Wen mentioned while washing her hands, this morning, I saw Mrs. Song staring at your tofu stall for quite a while. Mrs. Song was staring at the tofu stall. Zhuang Qingning stopped, the corners of her mouth dropping slightly. Dogs are attracted to the scent. If there's a scent of meat at home, it can attract dogs. It's not a big deal. The only thing that could be a problem is if you're a pushover yourself. Then don't be surprised if dogs always follow you, Mrs. Wen remarked, her eyelids drooping, not even bothering to look up. I see. Zhuang Qingning blinked, her smile returning. Thank you, Aunt Wen, for your reminder. Don't mention it, I don't have the kindness to worry about others. Mrs. Wen snorted. I'm just saying, if you get bitten by a dog and can't rent the tofu stall anymore, where will I find someone else to rent from? Yes, you're absolutely right, Aunt Wen. A tough exterior but a soft interior, she would rather die than admit her true feelings. Zhuang Qingning's eyes curved into a smile as she left Mrs. Wen's house and walked home. By the time she got home, Zhuang Qingsui had returned from Mrs. He's house, holding a plate of bean sprouts in her hand. Mung bean sprouts. Chapter 65, 065, Carrying a Kitchen Knife. Chapter 65, Chapter 065, Carrying a Kitchen Knife. Auntie said this is a bean sprout that just sprouted today, so she gave it to us to make a sour and spicy bean sprout dish. I guess it's too late to cook it for lunch, so I'll save it for dinner tonight. Zhuang Qingsui said, putting the bean sprouts and the plate together into the basket. She gently covered it with a cloche to prevent cats or other animals from digging around. Then she put some firewood into the stove, and boiled the water again. Zhuang Qingning started cooking the dumplings in the pot while preparing a dipping sauce with vinegar and chopped green onion. As soon as the dumplings, as white as little swans, were ready, they sat in the courtyard. While enjoying the warm sunlight, they feasted on the fragrant dumplings. They had used plenty of pork and Zhuang Qingning had added water when kneading the filling. As a result, the dumplings were extra juicy, juices even trickled down the corners of their mouths. Oh, dear. The sight made Mrs. Song's heart ache. These two lowly bitches were now able to afford dumplings filled with pork. She thought bitterly of the black noodle steamed buns she had at home. Fury rose within Mrs. Song. Finally, she could no longer stand it and stormed into the courtyard. You ungrateful girls. So you lock the door when you feast. You should give the good food to your elders first. Mrs. Song tried to snatch the bowls from Zhuang Qingning and Zhuang Qingsui's hands. Zhuang Qingning swiftly dodged her and smacked Mrs. Song's hand with her chopsticks. The intense blow caught Mrs. Song by surprise and she instinctively retracted her hand. Zhuang Qingsui, startled by the sounds, hid her bowl behind her and hurried to the corner. How dare you, you little bitch! You dare to hit me. Mrs. Song's hand was reddening and swollen from the chopstick hits. She took a sharp breath and was about to hit Zhuang Qingning. Zhuang Qingning retaliated with a few rapid strikes of her chopsticks. Her thin yet strong body, fortified by good food in recent days, left no room for leniency as she dealt with Mrs. Song, dealing such blows that red welts began to appear all over Mrs. Song's hand. A blow struck Mrs. Song's finger, making her wince in pain. She had no choice but to stop her attack for a moment. You ungrateful girl. I am your elder. How dare you show such disrespect? Even though her hand was stilled, her mouth was still moving. During the establishment of the female household, the village chief made it clear that Qingsui and I now control our own fate and have no connection to you. What elders are you talking about? Zhuang Qingning's eyebrows furrowed in anger. After establishing the female household, Mrs. Song had kept quiet for a while. Zhuang Qingning was clear about the reasons. Mainly, it was the harsh words Zhuang Qingning had said to Zhuang Jingye one day. This made the village chief, who hated disturbances in the village, fearful of any issues. So, he advised Zhuang Rumen and Mrs. Song not to cause trouble. Also, Zhuang Qingning's newfound friendship with Mrs. Wen, as well as her infamous reputation, made Zhuang Rumen and Mrs. Song wary of her. Moreover, they were still hoping that the sisters would fail outside and return home. They were waiting for the sisters to give in and come back so they could manipulate them further. Unfortunately, their waiting had only resulted in witnessing the sisters' lives improving day by day. They simply couldn't sit still anymore. What the hell are you talking about? The solid relationship of being flesh and blood relatives can be simply denied. Mrs. Song spat, I was your elder before, and I will always be your elder. Since you are the younger generation, you should respect your elders when you make money. You should bring the first dumpling to your uncle and me, not secretly enjoying it yourselves. Seeing the dumplings again, Mrs. Song's heart gave another aching tug. Looking at the thin dumpling skin and knowing how much filling must have been used, the amount of chives was obviously less, which meant more meat. What waste in eating! With such a piece of meat, if she took it home and stewed it with cabbage and potatoes, wouldn't she get a big pot of food, enough for 2 meals? Having lived on your family's food for so many years, now that you've made some money, you don't know to honor your elders, but instead feast by yourselves. How thick is your skin? Hand over those dumplings. After her rant, Mrs. Song added, or else, I'll go to the village chief and let him deal with you two ungrateful girls. Zhuang Qingning smirked. In the end, it was about Mrs. Song being envious of Zhuang Qingning and Zhuang Qingsui's better lives and wanting to take some benefits from them. If that's the case, they would have to deal with her properly. Otherwise, if people thought the two sisters were easy to bully, plenty of blood would be drawn in the future. Do you want dumplings? Zhuang Qingning sneered, giving Mrs. Song a sidelong glance. I'll get them for you. With that, she went to the kitchen with her bowl. That's more like it. Mrs. Song assumed that Zhuang Qingning was frightened by her threats to go to the village chief, which was why she obediently complied. So what if they had established a female household? Without anyone to support them at home, wouldn't they still be scolded and reprimanded in front of the village chief? Seeing Zhuang Qingning go into the kitchen to get the dumplings, Mrs. Song felt ecstatic. But considering the situation, the dumplings were probably raw dumplings. It didn't matter, boiling water was not difficult. The most important thing was if Zhuang Rumen saw the dumplings. It would make him feel better and he would no longer consider her stupid and useless. Zhuang Qingsui watched Mrs. Song gloat and Zhuang Qingning enter the kitchen. She bit her lip, leaning against the wall, afraid to make a sound. If they gave the dumplings to Mrs. Song this time, it was certain that in the future, Mrs. Song would come to their door again wanting more. While she was worrying, Zhuang Qingning came out of the kitchen. She was not holding any dumplings, but a knife. Under the bright sun, the well-used kitchen knife gleamed brightly. Dazzling and ominous. Mrs. Song turned as pale as a sheet. What are you going to do? Didn't Zhuang Jingye say before, this girl could be ruthless? If pushed, she would poison the well or turn violent. Seeing Zhuang Qingning holding a kitchen knife now, was she going to kill her? What am I going to do? Zhuang Qingning sneered, that depends on my mood today. Didn't you say you wanted dumplings from my house? Well then, I'll give you some. Chapter 66, 066, Murder. Chapter 66, Chapter 066, Murder. The moment her words ended, Zhuang Qingning, wielding a kitchen knife, lunged towards Mrs. Song. Despite her usual clumsy and slow manner, Mrs. Song knew at this moment that if she didn't run, her life would be in danger. With a cry, she rolled and crawled out the door. Zhuang Qingning promptly set off in pursuit. Sister. Zhuang Qingning's younger sister, Zhuang Qingsui, followed. You stay home, don't run around. I'll be back soon. Zhuang Qingning, fearing that Zhuang Qingsui might get hurt if things got too heated, issued instructions and then resumed chasing after Mrs. Song. However, Mrs. Song was by nature fat and short, and even though she struggled to run, her pace felt much like a slow crawl. Seeing the nimble and agile Zhuang Qingning getting closer, and the cold gleam from the kitchen knife in her hand, appeared soon to come down on her own head. Mrs. Song's face drained of blood, and her legs trembled like sifting chaff, almost unable to run. Murder, murder. This devilish girl is going to kill. Mrs. Song wailed, her tears and snot mingled. The hog-like screams echoed throughout the village, prompting those who were at home eating to come out and see what was happening. Upon stepping out, they saw Zhuang Qingning, bearing a fierce countenance, wielding a kitchen knife and chasing Mrs. Song. Mrs. Song, upon seeing people come out, looked at them as if they were her saviors, crying and hiding behind them, "Quickly save me, that damn girl is crazy, she wants to hack me to death, quick, stop that damn girl." Onlookers, who were not fond of Mrs. Song's usual behavior and knew that Zhuang Qingning had suffered a lot under her, initially didn't want to stop this. Especially now when Zhuang Qingning was getting the upper hand. However, seeing the fierce look in Zhuang Qingning's eyes and the incredibly sharp knife in her hand, as if she was about to kill someone in the street, the onlookers were frightened, and they also started trying to stop her. They were all from the same village after all, and it would be inappropriate for Mrs. Song to be killed, no matter how much they disliked her. Besides, if a murder happened in the village, it wouldn't just be food for gossip, but it would also impact young men getting married and young women getting married off in the village. "Ning, calm down," an older person in the village, one of Zhuang Qingning's uncles, tried to intervene. "What happened to make you so angry?" "Yeah, Ning, everyone knows you were wronged by her in the past, but now you've set up your own household, she shouldn't be able to bully you anymore, don't bring up the past. If anything happens, you won't get out of it." The crowd started whispering their advice to Zhuang Qingning. Zhuang Qingning, however, remained silent. The ferocity on her face did not abate, and the fury in her eyes only intensified. She ground her teeth and said, "Whoever goddamn stops me today, if I don't teach her a lesson, my surname is not Zhuang." Each word was squeezed out through her teeth, carrying a chilling determination that was like the cold wind in winter, causing everyone to shudder involuntarily. Just how unhappy was Zhuang Qingning to be this angry? Did she insist on cutting off Mrs. Song? What the hell happened? How did you provoke her so much that she became this angry? Someone asked Mrs. Song when they found that Zhuang Qingning couldn't be stopped. At this point, Mrs. Song was trembling so much that she almost sunk to the ground and leaned against the wall, her pale face wordless. On the one hand, there was a fierce determination to cut someone, and on the other hand, someone who couldn't get a single word out. The crowd was flabbergasted. Furthermore, this was a quarrel between two families. Even with witnesses around, it could easily offend people. Given the magnitude of the situation, someone had already gone to find the village chief, Zhuang Jingye. Zhuang Qingsui felt restless at home. She wanted to go out and help her sister, but she also remembered Zhuang Qingning's warning. Finally, after some thought, she left the house to find Zhuang Yonghe and Mrs. He. At least, with the presence of adults, Zhuang Qingning would be less likely to lose out. Meanwhile, Zhuang Jingye was home slurping noodles. Steamed noodle soup, made with pork belly and soybean sprouts, was so fragrant. He was thoroughly enjoying it with garlic cloves that his lips were covered in oil. The person who came to give the news ran into the courtyard. He only stopped when he crashed into the table where Zhuang Jingye was eating. Given the speed he had been running at, the table almost toppled over. Zhuang Jingye, with his quick reflexes, managed to pick up his bowl just in time, preventing his beloved steamed noodles from being spilled onto the ground. "What's the rush?" Zhuang Jingye shoved some garlic cloves into his mouth and slurped another mouthful of noodles. "Uncle Yi, hurry and have a look." Out of breath, the young man wiped the sweat off his forehead and anxiously said, "I don't know what happened, but Ning has gone mad. She is threatening her aunt with a knife." Zhuang Qingning was threatening Mrs. Song. Zhuang Jingye froze for a moment. When he came back to his senses, he slammed the bowl in his hand onto the table. "These nuisances, didn't I repeatedly tell them? I said Zhuang Qingning was a fierce one, and to not provoke her if it wasn't necessary. Why didn't Mrs. Song listen? Quickly lead the way and show me." Without even bothering to wipe his mouth, Zhuang Jingye rushed off with the men. When they arrived, Mrs. Song was still hiding behind people, leaning against the wall and panting heavily, her eyes full of fear towards Zhuang Qingning. At this time, Zhuang Qingning had been stopped, but her demeanor remained that of someone ready to attack, and she glared at Mrs. Song. Other onlookers were whispering soothing words to Zhuang Qingning in low voices. "What happened?" Zhuang Jingye asked, furrowing his eyebrows as he observed the scene. "Village chief," Zhuang Qingning said. "Just now when my sister and I were having lunch at home, my aunt suddenly barged in and tried to steal from us without any explanation." "Stealing?" Zhuang Jingye shot Mrs. Song an unhappy glance. Why were you stealing from them? Seeing that the village chief had arrived and the crowd securing Zhuang Qingning, Mrs. Song thought everyone was on her side, so she got up from the ground, her back straightened. Uncle, don't listen to this dead girl's nonsense. What do you mean, stealing? When have I stolen from her? On the contrary, this wicked girl, with no hint of filial piety, secretly closed her doors to make dumplings for lunch, and didn't think to share a bowl with her elders. I merely criticized her a bit, and she drew a kitchen knife on me. I am her aunt, her elder. Is it wrong for me to have a meal with her, or even to criticize her? This wicked girl has such an explosive temper, won't she rebel in the future? Upon hearing Mrs. Song's words, the expressions on the faces of the onlookers varied greatly. But most of them cast a disgusted look at Mrs. Song. Chapter 67, 067 The End. Chapter 67, Chapter 067 The End. Truly, Mrs. Song had no sense of shame. When she used to torment Zhuang Qingning, we never saw her paying any due respect as an elder to others. Now, when she perceives others faring marginally better, she conveniently espouses the elder's status to demand respect, without a shred of remorse or embarrassment. A segment of the crowd threw Zhuang Qingning a glare. What a frustrating child. It was merely a minor issue involving a bowl of dumplings, she could have simply declined. Instead, she escalated matters by threateningly brandishing a kitchen knife. This has blown things way out of proportion. Zhuang Jinjik gave both Mrs. Song and Zhuang Qingning a fierce glare. These two are nothing but trouble. Making such a huge fuss over a trivial matter, do you not feel embarrassed? Zhuang Jinjik reprimanded both in a gruff tone. Village chief, you shouldn't speak like this. Zhuang Qingning interrupted Zhuang Jingye's reproving speech. It was explicitly mentioned when I was declared head of the household that there would be no further involvement with my uncle's family. If so, on what grounds am I obligated to share my dumplings with them? When it comes to respecting elders who, after all, are not one's biological parents, it's not a given that I should show unconditional respect. The bond between me and my uncle's household is somewhat strained. Even though my sister and I lived under my uncle's roof for several years, they also profited from our lands. Now that debts are squared, it's my choice whether to honor or not to honor them. Just because Mrs. Song demands her rights, does this justify barging into my house demanding whatever she fancies? Moreover, who knows what she will demand next time if it's dumplings today? Didn't she bluntly claim at our house that she is entitled to my earnings? Doesn't this imply that she feels entitled to seize whatever she wants from me? In future, can she randomly snatch food or money? Now that I'm the head of my household, how can I ignore such actions, irrespective of their nature? Such tolerance would invite further harassment from everybody else, wouldn't it? Indeed, what Zhuang Qingning said is reasonable. Quickly arriving at the scene, Zhuang Yonghe chimed in, first, it's dumplings, who knows what they will snatch next? Now that Zhuang Qingning is head of her household, she can't merely let these issues slide. Consider if it happens amongst brothers who have separated households, if a brother barges into your house, eats and takes without a word, wouldn't that irk you? Zhuang Qingning was constantly tormented by Mrs. Song. Now that she is finally the head of her household and no longer subjected to bullying, she shouldn't be forced to bear with all their whims like before. With Zhuang Yonghe speaking out, the onlookers started agreeing with him, expressing that Mrs. Song was in the wrong. Indeed, if she is grabbing dumplings now, who knows what she'll snatch next? Fear settles in the hearts of men. When you give an inch, they take a mile, no different than trampling over your head while defecating and urinating. Especially Mrs. Song, who is known for her heartlessness. Isn't it because Zhuang Qingning bore with it that she was bullied for so long? Zhuang Jingye was annoyed by the squabbling onlookers. He raised his hand. Silence. Isn't it obvious who the village chief is? A rambunctious lot who no longer respected his authority. As Zhuang Jingye called for silence, the crowd quietened down. Mrs. Song, you were indeed in the wrong. As Zhuang Qingning said, the two of you have no actual relations anymore, you cannot just go to her house and seize things. What are you talking about? But I'm her aunt, why can't I have some dumplings? Mrs. Song was unnerved with so many people siding with Zhuang Qingning. Furthermore, Zhuang Jingye was chastising her, which ignited her anger. Why can't I? Zhuang Qingning snorted coldly. Suddenly, with a whizzing sound, she flung the kitchen knife in her hand. The knife headed straight towards Mrs. Song, freezing her on the spot. The onlookers gasped in shock. Sweat started trickling down from Zhuang Jingye's forehead. Were these people courting death? Did they not know how temperamental Zhuang Qingning was? Instead of calming her down, they completely forgot that Zhuang Qingning was holding a knife, ready to attack Mrs. Song. Is this the end for the village? And is it the end of his tenure as village chief? The end. Mrs. Song shared the same sentiment, her eyes rolled back thinking she was on her way to meet King Yama. The kitchen knife brushed past Mrs. Song's hair, with a swoosh and a clang, embedding itself into the loamy wall. It went halfway into the wall. A cold shiver ran through the crowd. This force, expended with all her strength, is scary. What if instead of using the kitchen knife to intimidate, she had aimed directly at Mrs. Song's forehead? Would it have cracked her skull open? Zhuang Qingning, this girl, is truly formidable. A ruthless Zhuang Qingning, however, ignored the astonished, shocked, and scared crowd. Walking past them, she extracted the knife lodged in the wall. What did you say? Zhuang Qingning glared at Mrs. Song. I didn't say anything. I merely acted. Since there are those who want to torment me, I might as well ensure they're not spared either. If all returns to chaos, no one will be better off. I have neither father nor mother to fear. The chilling words caused everyone to shudder on this already hot spring day. Mrs. Song was so scared that she fell to the ground, her colorless lips quivering for quite a while without uttering a word. What if that knife had cut her face? Mrs. Song felt a chill on her forehead, followed by a warmth creeping up between her legs. A stench permeated the air. The onlookers naturally knew what had happened, pinching their noses and covering their faces, tactfully ignoring the spectacle Mrs. Song presented. Zhuang Jingye's frown grew deeper. What a foolish behavior. If you intend to do evil deeds, at least be capable of doing so. At this rate, she should just stay at home instead of humiliating herself. Find someone to notify Zhuang Rumen. He'd better collect his wife before she further embarrasses herself. After issuing instructions, Zhuang Jingye looked at Mrs. Song. I need not spar with words. You should reflect upon your actions. If there's any more trouble in the future, I won't interfere. As for Zhuang Qingning, look, it isn't necessary to resort to violence. I may not simply be a puppet. If you need someone to back you up, I will. But there's no need to brandish a knife here. If you were to hurt someone, it wouldn't be a good thing. He lectured both of them impartially, expecting both to behave modestly. Zhuang Qingning blinked. Zhuang Jingye preferred peaceful villagers and was adept at playing middleman. He just wanted to pacify her now, urging her to behave modestly to avoid any trouble. Chapter 68, 068 Resonance. Chapter 68, Chapter 068 Resonance. In theory, as she continues her life in the village, she should indeed show some respect to the village chief. After all, it's inevitable that they will meet each other now and then in the future, and that would always make things easier. However, in front of Mrs. Song today, if she were to bow her head, Mrs. Song might take it as a sign of fear of the village chief. And in the future, Mrs. Song would not be the least bit scared of Zhuang Qingning if anything were to happen again. Without much thought, Zhuang Qingning loudly said, Uncle Village Chief, your willingness to speak for me is a great thing, and I have thanked you for it. However, this is just how I am. I cannot tolerate any injustice and was bullied in the past. In the future, not to mention aunt, no matter who dares to bully my family, I will not hesitate to fight back. The young girl's words were cold and firm and had a great momentum when she spoke. Even Zhuang Jingye was taken aback for a moment. He coughed a little after he regained his senses. This girl is indeed a tough one, not easy to talk into anything. Fortunately, Mrs. Song got really scared this time. In the future, she is sure to be more careful and not dare to cause trouble for Zhuang Qingning. While it might be true that Zhuang Qingning is a bit prickly, she never went looking for trouble. Let her say whatever she wants at this moment. Avoid arguing with her. This girl might think he's siding with Mrs. Song and thus creating problems for him in the future. He truly couldn't afford to offend someone who doesn't hesitate to wield a kitchen knife. All right, your temper is fierce, and you are not someone I can control. But being this tough at such a young age, you're like a hedgehog. Uncle Village Chief, rest assured. As long as others don't provoke me, I certainly won't trouble them either. But if someone insists on messing with me and gets pricked, they can't blame me, right? His unfinished words got stuck in his throat as Zhuang Jingye coughed again, feeling a bit relieved. Well, a hedgehog just sits there quietly. Why do you have to get close? If you get pricked, would you then question why the hedgehog has spines? Zhuang Jingye didn't argue further with Zhuang Qingning and just waved at the crowd. All right, everyone disperse. Go on with what you were doing. Keep this in mind for the future, don't go around bullying others. If anyone ends up hurting themselves because of their own cunning little schemes, don't say you're unlucky then. With the issue resolved and the show over, everyone started to disperse at the village chief's order. They couldn't bear the stench of urine and went home to prepare and have their meal. As the spectators were almost all gone, and Zhuang Rumen hadn't come to pick up Mrs. Song, she saw that people were leaving one after another. With Zhuang Qingning, who was holding a kitchen knife, next to her, she was afraid that Zhuang Qingning might get angry again and chop her. Therefore, she got up from the ground and ran home crying. Miss Ning. Mrs. He grasped Zhuang Qingning's hand. Are you all right? Auntie, don't worry, I'm fine. Zhuang Qingning grinned. Just now, Miss Sui came looking for us, saying that you got into trouble. We were so scared. I asked Sui to stay at home while both of us rushed out to check. Fortunately, you held the upper hand, which is quite a relief. However, after this incident, Zhuang Qingning's reputation will likely suffer. It will become more notorious. Mrs. He sighed silently. But if Zhuang Qingning herself doesn't care about her reputation, and considering today's matter, Mrs. Song initially came to demand dumplings. In the future, who knows what she might demand. If Mrs. Song isn't stopped this time, given her character, she will definitely intensify her actions in the future. Then, there would be nothing she could say in Zhuang Qingning's defense. I really didn't expect Mrs. Song to be this shameless, daring to barge in like this and even demanding that Miss Ning be filial to her. She really doesn't feel embarrassed at all. Mrs. He couldn't help cursing as she thought about it. Her type, where would they ever know what shame is? Her heart is utterly black. Isn't it just because Miss Ning made some silver-selling tofu and she wants to get her hands on it? Zhuang Yonghe agreed, nodding. Yes, didn't Zhuang Yuanren come home a few days ago? Zhuang Rumen kept saying that Yuanren is sure to pass the prefectural examination this time. He must have come home in preparation for it. Going to the prefectural city will undoubtedly require expenses. He took a lot of money from home and the family is strapped for cash. So Mrs. Song had set her sights on Miss Ning. Miss Ning, don't worry in the future. If anything happens, come and look for me, I'll stand up for you. After all, she's a young girl. Even if she's hot-tempered and won't let anyone bully her, she still needs to maintain some reputation. Previously, there were only rumors, but this time she actually wielded a kitchen knife. It definitely had an impact on Zhuang Qingning's reputation. Zhuang Qingning understood Zhuang Yonghe's intentions and did not refute. She just nodded. There's nothing else to worry about now. Let's hurry back home. I guess Uncle and Auntie are having lunch now. Well, we were just starting to eat when the three of them returned to Zhuang Yonghe's house. Zhuang Qingsui was anxiously looking toward the road, with Zhuang Mingliang and Zhuang Mingho on either side. Seeing the three of them return, everyone came to meet them. Sister. Zhuang Qingsui threw herself into Zhuang Qingning's arms, tears falling down. It's okay, it's okay. I just gave Aunt a good scare, I'm fine. Zhuang Qingning laughed, patting Zhuang Qingsui's back. Don't worry, Sui. You don't have to worry anymore. Mrs. He also tried to comfort her in a low voice. After causing such a scene, Mrs. Song won't dare to cause trouble for you again. Seeing that everyone looked relaxed and Zhuang Qingning seemed fine, Zhuang Qingsui finally relaxed. It was time for lunch, so the sisters didn't interfere with Zhuang Yonghe's family mealtime and returned home first. The dumplings in the bowl had cooled down completely by now. Eating cold meaty food might upset the stomach, so Zhuang Qingning lit a small fire, put the cooled dumplings in the pan, and fried them again. The fried dumplings were golden and crispy on the outside. The sisters once again started enjoying their aromatic lunch. Zhuang Jingye returned home and continued eating his noodles. The cold noodles Would you like me to steam them for you? Mrs. Yi suggested as she was washing dishes. It's too much trouble, just leave it. Zhuang Jingye was indifferent. After such an incident just now, he had lost his appetite. There's never a moment of peace in this village. It seems that he needs to keep everyone in check, especially Zhuang Rumen and Mrs. Song. If he could nip it in the bud, the issues would be easier to deal with. However, he couldn't come down too hard on them, especially since Zhuang Yuanren was a scholar. If he could pass the county exam next year, he would officially become the scholar. He would be the first scholar in the village. If he could pass the imperial exam and become a government official in the future, he might even have to curry favor with their family. When dealing with people and affairs, he had to keep a back door open for himself. Oh right. Zhuang Jingye was pondering when Mrs. Yi came over. I think Miss Ning is quite a character. In the future, you should take care of her family more, there might be benefits. Chapter 69, 069 Stupid. Chapter 69, Chapter 069 Stupid. What? That very girl who attacked my sister-in-law with a kitchen knife. Zhuang Jingye scoffed. Apart from her ruthlessness, she is just a maid after all. She will never amount to anything significant. Well, I wouldn't be so sure. I find her quite capable and assertive. Her tofu shop has been doing incredibly well recently. I suspect her business might continue to expand. Mrs. Yi said, aren't you aware of how crafty Mrs. He of the Yonghe family is? Not only is she close to Miss Zhuang, but she even sent cornmeal on the day she became the household head. This was a much-needed aid to Zhuang, who owes her a debt of gratitude. Who else would Miss Zhuang turn to, if not Mrs. He? I've observed that Mrs. He has been profiting quite nicely these past few days. This is just the beginning. In the future, her earnings might entirely depend on Miss Zhuang. Ignorant woman. Zhuang Jingye angrily interrupted Mrs. Yi. Your knowledge is as limited as your hair length. You're so shallow that you only see the small immediate gains. It's just selling tofu and earning some coins. Has that somehow made you envious? Sure, Miss Zhuang is capable, but so what? She's still just a maid. What kind of turmoil can she stir up? Besides, she's just grounding tofu. Can she really make it too extraordinary? As the wife of the village chief, can't you broaden your perspective and address the big picture? You're making a fool of yourself with your shallow thinking. Mrs. Yi felt resentful and pursed her lips. After all the talk, it all came down to looking down on women. Being the wife of the village chief doesn't exempt one from the need to eat, drink, and make a living. He's just a minor village chief. Thinking too highly of himself makes him a laughingstock. Mrs. Yi utterly despised Zhuang Jingye's arrogant demeanor, but she bit her tongue considering he was her husband and the village chief, a position which brought them some comforts and conveniences. She wiped her hands on her apron without a word of rebuttal and went to ladle out a bowl of spinach soup for him. After finishing the remaining noodles and drinking half a bowl of spinach soup, Zhuang Jingye got up and went out. He walked toward Zhuang Rumen's house. Meanwhile, Mrs. Song had already returned home. When she arrived home, Zhuang Rumen was brooding in the courtyard. My lord. Mrs. Song lowered her head, not daring to look at him, and didn't even dare to let out a breath. She had picked a fight with Zhuang Qingning, hoping to gain some advantage and make her husband happy, but not only did she fail to gain anything, but she was also chased halfway across the village by a maid. Now, she reeked of urine, making it all the more difficult for her to raise her head. You caused a spectacle instead of cooking at home like you should have at this hour. Do you think our house isn't chaotic enough already? Zhuang Rumen angrily reprimanded her. Didn't I warn you repeatedly when Yuanren returned home? After his exam, the school officials will be coming home with him to celebrate. What will people say when they learn that you asked our niece for dumplings and she chased you across half the village with a kitchen knife? Where would Yuanren hide his face then? Can you show a little more concern for your son? All because of your greed for a plate of dumplings. Is your gluttony out of control? Zhuang Rumen yelled until his throat hurt. He truly didn't know what sins he had committed in his past life to end up with such a fool for a wife. She had to go provoke Zhuang Qingning and cause such a spectacle, embarrassing the entire family. If she could have seized those dumplings herself, at least he could have seen some gumption in her, but she couldn't even manage that and made a mess of things. Zhuang Rumen felt a surge of anger welling up. in him, making his chest hurt. That was precisely why he hadn't stepped in to help Mrs. Song when he saw her embarrassing herself earlier. She's too damn embarrassing. I know my mistake, my lord. After being chased halfway across the village with a kitchen knife and wetting her pants from fright, Mrs. Song was now berated by Zhuang Rumen as soon as she got home. Mrs. Song's tears began to fall as she whimpered in her defense, I was just thinking about the expenses for Yu Enren's education. Those two girls have a knack for making money. If we could get some money from them, we could ease our financial burden a little. So, did you manage to get any? Zhuang Rumen shouted angrily again. No, the voice of Mrs. Song was as small as a mosquito. Idiot. Zhuang Rumen cursed, and then added, fool. Did you really think you could snatch up dumplings by simply stretching your hand out? Anyone would want to cut your hand off for such insolence. Zhuang Rumen looked at Mrs. Song with disdain. You actually thought you were clever and went to their house openly. In the future, if you dare to act without consulting me first, I'll skin you alive. Mrs. Song, realizing she caused a problem and embarrassed Zhuang Rumen, didn't dare reply a word. Only after Zhuang Rumen was all yelled out, and had vented enough, did she finally utter in a low voice, I'll go cook now. She quickly went into the house, changed out of her stinking clothes, soaked them in a basin of water, and then hurriedly entered the kitchen to cook. She tried to make noodles with sweet potato flour, but it didn't work, so she mixed in some cornmeal and made it into a flatbread. She used the leftover sesame leaves from last year to make a soup with the noodles. Foolish woman. Zhuang Rumen was still stewing with anger in the courtyard. Am I not aware of the thriving tofu business of Zhuang Qingning and Zhuang Qingsui, the money they are earning? Wouldn't I want to get that money into my own hands? However, Zhuang Qingning's strong stance on establishing her household head status and her stern words clearly indicate her fundamental change. She is not someone easily bullied anymore. At this time, it's impossible to confront her directly or openly rob her. Instead, I need to find an appropriate opportunity to discuss this matter and persuade those two girls to willingly hand over their money. With his heart set on it, Zhuang Rumen had planned it all carefully. But damn this Mrs. Song. Unimaginably foolish and presumptuous, she never thought to consult him, and openly ran to their house asking for things. What she asked for isn't something valuable, and she could have at least seized it, but instead, she asked for a valueless plate of dumplings and couldn't even get that, making a total fool of herself. The old saying, an unworthy wife brings misfortune for 3 generations, seems quite apt here. Mrs. Song is going to ruin their family. Are you home? Just as Zhuang Rumen was seething with anger, Zhuang Jingye walked into the courtyard with an unhappy look on his face. After the big commotion caused by Mrs. Song, which surprised many people, Zhuang Jingye reached home shortly afterwards. He clearly knew what had happened just by looking at the situation. Chapter 70, 070, not even the first stroke of a character is drawn. Chapter 70, Chapter 070, not even the first stroke of a character is drawn. Zhuang Rumen silently cursed Mrs. Song again in his heart. But now, he was already enraged and felt somewhat discontent when he saw Zhuang Jingye taking such a confrontational stance. Does the village chief have issues? His tone was distant, not even addressing Zhuang Jingye as uncle. His wife had done such a disgraceful thing, yet now, upon meeting the village chief, she showed no signs of apology, instead standing tall as if ready for a fight. With such an audacious husband, no wonder Mrs. Song was so foolish. Indeed, the commotion earlier was huge, but Zhuang Rumen didn't step out to attempt mediation. It's likely he encouraged Mrs. Song to make these demands, but retreated out of embarrassment when things went south. This Zhuang Rumen. Of course there are issues. Zhuang Jingye's tone somewhat indignant. Just now, Mrs. Song made such a fuss, I thought you were simply deaf to it, but it turns out you were just comfortably at home. I shall sermonize you properly. How can a husband let his wife act so recklessly in public, causing disgrace, and you just hide at home and do nothing? Village chief, you can't say that. If Mrs. Song were an animal, I could keep her tied at home or in a pen. However, she is a human being, a living person. What can I do? Should I tie her up, bind her, or confine her? Zhuang Rumen retorted irritably, I understand this matter now. From now on, I will control it. There's no need for the village chief to personally remind me of this. It was already a humiliating incident. Face was already lost. Everyone knew about it and understood how to deal with it later. Yet Zhuang Jingye insisted on coming over to confront him, which felt like rubbing salt into the wound. Zhuang Rumen was furious, unable to swallow this bitter pill. Moreover, if Zhuang Yuanren could pass the examination this time and perform well in the next one, he would be a commendable scholar who wouldn't even have to kneel to the county magistrate, and the family wouldn't have to pay taxes. What could Zhuang Jingye possibly do then? As a village chief, disciplining farmers was his customary duty. Now, there were clear wrongs in Zhuang Rumen's family, yet he was being confrontational and giving no face to Zhuang Jingye, which greatly annoyed Zhuang Jingye. If you could control your wife and prevent her from causing trouble, no one would be willing to step into your house. Zhuang Jingye expressed his irritation. If Zhuang Yuanren were at home, he would probably die of anger. He would feel extremely ashamed and think that he was cursed to have parents like you who only drag him down. When Zhuang Jingye mentioned Zhuang Yuanren, he saw that there was no fear on Zhuang Rumen's face. Instead, a slight smirk suggested that Zhuang Rumen felt secure in something. A matter that isn't even certain yet is being paraded around so confidently. If Zhuang Yuanren becomes a scholar, would he dare to trample on Zhuang Jingye as the village chief? Zhuang Jingye glanced at Zhuang Rumen and said sullenly, "Right, maybe your family doesn't care that much. After all, he is just taking the exam. Whether he will pass or not is another story. Many people study, how many will see their fortunes rise as a result? Zhuang Yuanren is just a bit more talented than the average child. Have you started to put on airs because of that? Is the scholar title really that easy to obtain? You've probably never visited the county or town to see how many old students are still wandering there. Do you think your Yuanren is definitely superior to others? Even if he becomes a scholar, what then? There won't be much rank or a good career path. Poor scholars remain poor scholars. How much better can it be? It's just a more respectable title. After all, what do you think it is? You dare to argue with me when the matter is not even certain yet. Aren't you not worried about your current situation? I haven't had much free time lately. I haven't been to the town much. When the weather gets better, I must visit the town more often, especially the academy." Zhuang Rumen's angry face suddenly deflated. Yes, even if Zhuang Yuanren could pass the exam, that would be at least next year's matter. And it's still uncertain whether he will pass next year. Even if he passes, he will only be tax-exempt. After all, he can't secure a government position. Inside, they were still ordinary farmers, still under the control of Zhuang Jingye. If he angers Zhuang Jingye to this extent, there will be more ways to punish him in the future, and life certainly won't be easy. Uncle. Of course, Zhuang Rumen was not one of those people who thought that being principled could replace food. Although he was very dissatisfied with Zhuang Jingye's speculation that Zhuang Yuanren might not pass the exam, his tone softened. "Aren't you being too harsh with your words? I was also very angry at that stupid wife of mine, Mrs. Song, and just scolded her a lot. I was still angry, so..." "Ah, uncle, please don't be petty with me. You know what I'm like usually, right?" Of course, it was clear. Zhuang Rumen was a calculating man who would never go against his interests. However, this type of person has his advantages, that is, he is very good at gauging the situation and will certainly not act recklessly without giving any face like some stubborn fools. Zhuang Rumen smiled amiably, and Zhuang Jingye naturally met him halfway. "If I didn't know what you're like in daily life, I wouldn't rest until I had a full account with you. Remember, from now on, control your wife more. Our village has always been peaceful and free of trouble. Don't let your wife be the cause of any turmoil. If you really provoke Zhuang Qingning to pull out a knife, even if you are the victim, it wouldn't be a glorious thing. Let alone your children's marriage, I think even Yuanren's future would be ruined." "Yes, uncle, you're absolutely right. From now on, I'll make sure she behaves herself and doesn't cause any more trouble." Zhuang Rumen's eyes rolled around. "To be honest, today's matter was caused by Mrs. Song. It's my fault for not disciplining her well and allowing her to cause such trouble in public, let alone causing much inconvenience to Miss Ning. I should go to her and apologize." "Uncle, how about this? I'll take a few eggs and go apologize to Miss Ning and Miss Sui, and you shall be my witness." This, Zhuang Jingye hesitated for a moment. Zhuang Rumen was discerning of the situation and willing to make amends, which should prevent Zhuang Qingning from stirring up any more trouble, and would contribute to village peace. It was a great solution. However, this approach seemed like giving too much face to Zhuang Qingning, making her think that he was taking her side and standing up for her. She might become even more reckless in the future. Zhuang Jingye really didn't want to see this little girl becoming too arrogant. Chapter 71, 071, Getting into Trouble. Chapter 71, Chapter 071, Getting into Trouble. This is ultimately a matter between your two families. It wouldn't be right for me to get too involved. Zhuang Jingye contemplated for a moment before declining. A simple apology should suffice. In this way, no matter what, it was Zhuang Rumen's affair alone. No one could argue that his role as the village chief was in any way improper. Uncle, you're aware that because of Mrs. Song's foolish actions, Miss Zhuang Qingning and Miss Qingsui have started to see me in a negative light, even bearing resentment towards me. Zhuang Rumen said, after the scuffle earlier, they now likely despise the sight of me even more. If I were to go there now, they would surely chase me out before I have a chance to apologize, and instead, I would get a tongue lashing. All things considered, it is not a good situation. Uncle, if you could mediate, I am sure Miss Zhuang Qingning will respect you and calmly exchange a few words with me. If our two families could live in harmony without squabbles, wouldn't that bring some peace to the village and give you peace of mind? He continued, earlier, when my son Yuanren returned home, he had mentioned his wish to invite you over, but there was simply not enough time. Once Yuanren finishes his exams and returns home, we will ensure that he pays you a visit to share the good news, and we ask that you kindly enjoy a cup at our place. The last few sentences were subtly aimed at pleasing Zhuang Jingye and fostering a closer relationship. Although Zhuang Yuanren might not necessarily succeed in the exams, he was, after all, a studious young man with chances of success. It would not be a bad thing to establish good relations early, especially if Zhuang Yuanren were to become successful and qualify as a student or even an imperial scholar in the future. One must always leave open multiple paths in life. Southwest the road can widen and not lead into a dead end. Zhuang Jingye thought it over and then nodded. All right, for Yuanren's sake, let's make this visit. Thank you, uncle. Seeing Zhuang Jingye agree, Zhuang Rumen gave a beaming smile and then asked him to wait for a moment before going into the house to get some eggs. He picked out around 10 eggs, put them in a small bamboo basket, and lined the basket with soft wheat straw to prevent the eggs from breaking. What are you doing? Mrs. Song saw him gathering eggs and desperately asked. These are fresh eggs, laid by our hens over the last couple of days. Weren't you planning on saving them to sell in town so we have money set aside for Yuanren? It is worth mentioning that in order to preserve the eggs for selling, Zhuang Rumen had been counting them over and over again, afraid that they might be secretly eaten. Why do you meddle in everything? Finish making the meal. Zhuang Rumen didn't bother answering Mrs. Song, simply loaded the eggs into the small bamboo basket and then left with Zhuang Jingye. Ah. Mrs. Song, startled by yet another confrontation, was about to speak out, but fearing she might get scolded, she shut her mouth and hung her head, going back into the kitchen to continue cooking and calling Zhuang Qinghe to prepare the fire. Mom, I heard Dad's planning to go to Zhuang Qingning's house. Zhuang Yuanzhong snuck into the kitchen, blinking his eyes. He said, from what Dad said, it sounds like he plans to send the eggs there as a peace offering. What? Zhuang Qinghe, who was kindling the fire, suddenly screamed, why should we give eggs to that wretched girl? Why is it fair? She shuts everyone out and eats all the good food, ignoring us completely. Even if we beat that wretched girl to death, it wouldn't be too much, and we're actually going to give her eggs. Has Dad lost his mind? Mrs. Song too was too upset to stem her tears. Even if she failed to reclaim any belongings, even if Zhuang Qingning had chased her halfway across the village, and yes, it was quite embarrassing, but wasn't she doing all of this for the sake of the family? Zhuang Rumen not only failed to stand up for her but was also planning on apologizing. Wouldn't that only make Zhuang Qingning look down on her even more? People in the village were likely to say that she was someone even her own husband despised. Mom, it's too much for Dad to behave this way. He is not holding on to any shred of dignity. How will we show our faces in the village after this? Zhuang Qinghe was exasperated. And those eggs, Dad is so generous with them, giving away 10 or so. When was the last time any of us ate an egg at home, yet he's so keen on giving them all away? Why does that damned girl, who doesn't even care for them, get to eat what she doesn't have? Exactly, I think so too. We can't even cat eggs, but those girls get them, Zhuang Yuanzhong agreed, nodding earnestly. You too, quiet down. Mrs. Song quietly wiped away her tears. Your father must have his reasons for doing this, it must be something beneficial. It could be that the village chief said something and your father had no choice. With this thought in mind, she felt a bit better. What do you mean he had no choice? Zhuang Qinghe's face was flushed with anger. Isn't brother going to pass the imperial examination to become a student next year? Students don't even have to kneel when they meet a county governor. Is there any need to? Such an extent that we have to lower ourselves to a village chief. It looks like Dad is letting his soft heart get the best of him, forgetting what he should be doing, resulting in him creating such a situation now. Unacceptable. As Zhuang Qinghe kept talking, she stomped away from the stove, went to another room, grabbed 4 or 5 eggs, and began cracking them into the pot without a word. The pot was simmering with sweet potato noodle pie. The eggs quickly solidified into a poached egg shape as soon as they went in. What are you doing? Mrs. Song exclaimed, hurrying to stop her. If your father sees this, won't he break your legs? So what if he beats me? Zhuang Qinghe stood her ground, her face turning red. Why is it that those 2 dead girls can eat our eggs, but we can't? Today, I must eat an egg. In the past, she had always bullied Zhuang Qingning and Zhuang Qingsui, making them eat what she had left over. She dressed them in her hand-me-downs, but now they were eating pork and chive dumplings and eggs, while she could only eat sweet potato pie. This is not right. Zhuang Qinghe was getting angrier the more she thought about it and threw all the remaining eggs into the pot. Mrs. Song was not able to stop her. Oh my God, isn't this asking for trouble? Mrs. Song was so anxious that she didn't know what to do at the end. When Zhuang Rumen came back and saw so many eggs in the pot, he would definitely get furious, definitely scold them, and definitely chastise her for being incapable and not keeping things under control. Mrs. Song was anxious like an ant on a hot pan, pacing around the kitchen. At least there are eggs to eat now. Zhuang Yuanzhong broke into a smirk. After days of living hand-to-mouth, not even getting a glimpse of any oil, the food cravings in his belly were now going to be satisfied. Finally, it was time to enjoy a feast. Part 4 of the series ends here. Thank you for watching and listening. If you find it interesting, please give us a like, a comment and a subscription so that we have the motivation to make the next videos.